don't know.
Good, how about yourself?
Is there two of them?
Wait, hold on.
$0 raiders for K-Bag. Colcomet, he's in this landscape.
K-Bag, I like that. K-Bag.
Yeah, that kind of slipped by.
Yeah, Foreman.
We're going with the theme, D-Bag, Deontay Foreman. I only need $2 readers. I only need $2 readers to start. I only need $2 readers to start Deontay Foreman. I don't know where Matthew Berry went. Matthew's off the set.
Nice job, Lawrence. Nice job. Couldn't take it anymore. Couldn't take it anymore.
He's lost it.
Couldn't take it anymore.
Fantasy Football Pregame with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
We were most definitely in our bag, more so than usual last week.
Dude.
We have sobered up from all the dollar readers, but we are still very much on a high from last week's experience in Philadelphia at Applebee's. That was one for the ages, one for the books. Welcome to Fantasy Football Pregame. Lawrence Jackson, Jay Crouch, and Michael Smith, and of course Matthew Berry. You guys are halfway there. It's time to make your move, or moves, as the case may be. And we will advise you on all the decisions, all the dilemmas. As always, hit us with the hashtag FFPregame, and we will answer as many questions as possible. We will take the Pepsi challenge with anybody when it comes to answering questions.
We answer more questions than any other show. I see
any show in history.
Since we've started doing it, I've seen other pregame shows.
Try to be like us.
They're just like, we answer questions too. And I'm just like, all right, fine. It's fine. Welcome. But no, we answer more.
Imitation is a serious form of
It really is. Well, it's welcome my life. It's been my career in fantasy. But I will say this, between the bottom line and the show, we legitimately answer more questions than any other pregame show. So use the hashtag FFPregame and get yours in, and let's get you a win in week 8.
We at the
Everyone
halfway
except
point.
for Michael Smith, who plays me in our show league. Do not listen to the answers that we give.
You're favored.
I
know the projections.
But
are
you got
on your side.
Puka. I don't know. I'm nervous about my matchup with you.
That's the halfway point,
Yeah.
but it ain't time to half step. Okay,
No,
we got to
sir.
get serious here. Week 8 storylines. Kick us off, Jay Croucher.
Guy I'm most looking forward to today is Breece Hall, who is now looking like the guy from last season who was ripping off 70-yard runs against the Broncos. He looks 100% healthy. He's hitting top speeds that he did last year. I think that he's going to be a top 5 running back the rest of the way, and I think that he will light up the Giants. He's set at 71.5 rushing yards, and he previously has been set in the 40s, so I think that he is going to be a monster.
Music to my ears because he's in my lineup against Matthew in the show league.
You might get that on a carry.
Yeah, exactly. He's got Breece Hall. He's got Puka. We talked about this on Friday's show. I love Breece Hall anytime touchdown at plus money on DraftKings. He's going to go. He's playing for you against me, which means he will absolutely go off. He will have the best game of his career.
Although I feel like you're reverse jinxing me right now.
No.
My team.
Listen, I have Breece Hall in the guillotine league that I care the most about. So I hope Breece Hall goes off. I hope the rest of your team tanks, but not Puka. I got a lot of Puka. I need Puka and Breece to have huge games, and the rest of your team just to tank.
That's the life of being in 17 leagues.
Exactly.
Lawrence, what you got?
Yeah, man. So, the Packers offense started off good this season, been struggling for a while. They'll have Christian Watson back and Aaron Jones. The question for me will be, can they get back on track? These are their 2 best offensive players. They're still not 100%. Aaron Jones said he feels better than ever, but the coach says, we're still going to be careful with him. So it'll be interesting to see how they match up with this Vikings team. here in Week 8.
Lawrence, you think it's more than just health with this team? You think it's youth or even chemistry?
Yeah,
because
they
of the lack of
haven't
health?
all played together once yet. A.J. Dillon's been, I don't know, whatever, carrying the load for a while. So you finally get Christian Watson back on the hamstring. You got Romeo Doubs. He's had some good games, but not too consistent. So it'll be interesting to see. Versus the Vikings, you should be able to do something against that defense. So
although they've played better recently, the
Yes,
Vikings have played better
definitely,
recently. And if Jordan Love sucks again, 'cause he's been bad.
So I was about to say I was gonna say a little more delicately that the jury's still out.
No, I reckon jury's back in. I think they've delivered their verdict. He's no good.
Already? But is that fair though?
It's
This is
not
first
fair.
year as a starter.
definitely not
First
fair.
year he's not good.
Watson's, to your point, Watson's been in and out. Aaron Jones been in and out. Luke Musgrave's been in and out. Like, he hasn't had the full complement of the offense. So I don't think it's fair. But I'm just saying, if he struggles again, do they go to Sean Clifford? I will just tell you, in deep dynasty leagues, we talk about dynasty here, Michael Smith, I got Sean Clifford.
Wow.
You never know. It's a 33-man roster, 12-team league. It's dynasty. It's deep.
Okay, so for all the deep dynasty references I have made, none have gone as deep as Sean Clifford. Okay.
I don't know. Peyton Mitchell was pretty deep.
Amari DiMarcardo before he was a thing.
All right, Sean
Anyway,
Clifford.
I'm just saying, I'm with Lawrence in that this is, I think, a massive storyline in terms of, at the moment, I have Aaron Jones in a league. I'm not starting him. It's you only play 2 running backs, and I started James Cook on Thursday because I wasn't sure. And now that Ken Walker's been cleared, I'm playing Cook and Walker over Jones because who knows? I have no idea what we're going to get from Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
And once you take out Aaron Jones, you're like, who on this offense do you trust at all? Like, maybe Watson gets deep for one or Dobbs.
I traded Christian Watson, speaking of dynasty. I've already traded him.
I mean, that's what's anyway. Let's move on.
I like
Anyway,
it.
I'm just
I like
saying.
it. I'm gonna go broader. Speaking of trades, how do today's results and injuries, unfortunate part of the game, how do they affect how teams approach the trade deadline on Tuesday? Whether they're buyers, whether they're sellers, I know Adam Schefter reported that the Titans have told Derrick Henry, we have no plans to trade you. Plans can obviously change.
But he walked it back in the same tweet. Did you see that? No, but that doesn't mean they won't trade him.
Everything is negotiable.
You're right. They're not planning on it, but they will listen to offers. It doesn't mean he won't be traded.
I'll tell you how the Titans are approaching this. Here's how the Titans are approaching this. I live in this house.
Yes, sir.
You want to buy my house? Give me a reason to move out of my house. So they're not shopping, but they're certainly listening. And so if somebody this week, depending on where their team is, it does.
It feels
posturing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on where teams are record-wise, depending on where they are injury-wise, who could be moved, whether it's Henry or Hopkins from Tennessee, whether it's either the receivers, the veteran receivers from the Broncos, even defensively, whether your commanders decide to move on from defensive ends, that could transform other teams and affect fantasy lineups moving forward.
So I agree with you. If the Titans lose today to your Falcons, if Desmond Ridder goes in there and isn't completely terrible, he's just mostly terrible, and he manages to get you guys a win.
That's how Desmond Ridder throws it.
Y'all are ruthless this morning.
It's changed something.
I'm in a mood.
With no Dollaritas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm angry. Where's my Dollaritas?
You drank them all. There's none left.
You damn sure drunk them all.
That might actually be true.
That was some of the best. Just side note. That was some of the best TV I've ever done.
Oh, it was fun.
Yeah, I've doing this for a long time. That was so much fun.
We got to get back out to an Applebee's soon.
Yeah, for sure.
I need me some Dollaritas. Anyway, on air. But I think if the Titans win, maybe they're 3-4, and maybe they feel like they've still got a shot at this division.
Exactly.
If they're 2-5, then I feel like then you sell. Listen, I like Will Levis. I'm rooting for the kid. Again, he's one of us. He's a fantasy player, so I hope that Will Levis and the Titans win this game for him. But as somebody who has a lot of Tajay Spears, and by the way, if he's available in your league, go pick him up to my point.
Get him right now.
Yeah.
Because I would like to see Tajay Spears. I'd like to see Derrick Henry on a winner. I'd like to see DeAndre Hopkins on a winner.
The domino effect is fascinating. If somebody gets traded, who does that open the door for? Like a Tajay Spears.
Right, and could you see, and then could Treylon Burks finally, and could we see some Chigakonkwo down the stretch if Hopkins isn't anyway? So I think that's a great storyline, Michael.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Very interesting to see what happens today. My storyline?
Yes.
My turn? I forget.
Yes, it is your storyline. I think I might have skipped you, as a matter of fact.
That's all good. That's fine. I'm skippable.
Just kind of witness.
I'm very skippable. My storyline is the Colts. Like, okay, so we were like, oh boy, Anthony Richardson. Yeah, we know. But like to me, I think the Colts offense as a whole is fascinating today. A couple of different things. So first off, they put up a massive game against the great Browns defense.
Sure
that
did.
was a wacky game.
Who saw that coming?
Right. I mean, like, but so I think on the receiving, I think of the receiving part, right? Again, Minshew all of a sudden like had 2 rushing touchdowns last year. Is Minshew
Looking like Anthony Richardson.
Is Minshew was it just a good day at the office, or could Minshew actually be a viable top 12-ish fantasy quarterback the rest of the way? What happens with that running back room? Like Zach Moss has been really good, and he's questionable, but it's looking like he's a game time decision. But it's looking like he'll go.
Yeah, the DNP limited DNP. That was kind of weird.
Right, it's a little weird, but the reporting this morning has been that it looks like he's going to go, but I think he is a game time decision. We'll track that for you, obviously, coming up.
But even if he goes, how much does he get?
Right, and does Jonathan Taylor, with increased workload, does he sort of overtake this backfield? He's the man that got paid, not Zach Moss. It's been a 50-50 timeshare the last couple of weeks, but could it be 65-70, 65-35, 70-30? So the backfield as well. And then also, of course, Michael Pittman. He's got Marshawn Lattimore on him. Josh Downs is somebody we've talked about a lot as well.
Also in my lineup against you today?
Exactly. Josh
Downs?
Downs going to go off. Yeah, he's got Josh Downs. All right. We got a question here from
With
Jimmy.
one flex spot, who should Jimmy start? Josh Jacobs, Damian Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr., who you just mentioned, or Nico Collins?
Okay, come on. This is Josh Jacobs. I mean, look, here's the thing. I think Nico Collins has a good game against the Carolina Panthers. Damian Pierce, I'm not sure. It's him or Devin Singletary. That might be a committee. I think both are going to be flex playable today against Carolina because I think they'll be up and they'll be running as well. Pittman's going to have Marshawn Lattimore on him. I think it's Josh Jacobs. I don't think it's all that close. I get it. They're on the road at Detroit.
I agree it's Josh Jacobs, but he's averaging 2.9 yards per carry. And he doesn't have a single game all season of averaging even 4 yards per carry. And he's going up against a good rush defense in Detroit. So I agree it is Jacobs just because he's still Josh Jacobs. He still won the rushing title last year, and he's still getting receiving work as well, which is the thing. But I don't feel amazing about it.
He's the guy that of these, he's the one that has the highest floor in terms of touches. Like, again, Nico Collins could and / should have a good game, but it could also be a Tank Dell. Again, so Jacobs, the other thing is I do think that Raiders get Jimmy Garoppolo back, which I think that will help that offense. Sure. Right? And so Jacobs, who's been involved in the passing game, I think the answer, Jimmy, is Josh Jacobs there. But anyway, that's my burning question, is just sort of about the Colts offense as well. Is like,
still viable.
Was last week a mirage, or is this going to be a true fantasy bonanza and not just one or two guys? That's what we thought coming into the season.
Even with Minshew's turnovers, still putting up, high 20s,
They put up almost
points.
40 against the Browns. I mean, that was a wacky game with a lot of big plays, but still. Anyway.
Shout out to Shane Steichen. Shout out to you, Jimmy. Keep the questions coming to the hashtag #FFPregame. Now it is time for our burning questions.
Still no Lawrence. Still no Lawrence.
What is this?
It's a point. Now it's becoming like just a, there he is.
I was about to
So
say,
wait, are we
man,
just going to keep it that way?
I kind of think it's funny.
Or are we ever going to update this before we're halfway through the season?
Lawrence is my child.
I like Lawrence's.
Are we telling Lawrence that he's still auditioning? Like, I think he got the gig.
Listen, no, we're all auditioning every day,
So
every
small.
play. But I just, the face, look at his face. Though.
That's
He's
a
just
good-
like, how am I in this segment?
Is that an
Like,
Instagram? Is that an Instagram picture that they pulled from you?
That's
what it looks like, yeah.
It's like,
Like a rap album cover.
the sun might be out a little bit
Right.
on there, I'm
What was the
squinting.
caption to
I'm
this
not
one?
wearing my glasses too, so I can't see. You can tell I'm squinting right there.
I wonder what the caption was to that picture. That's good stuff. Let's start with you, Lawrence.
Yes.
Your Falcons. Matthew mentioned he's pulling for Will Levis' Tennessee Titans. Falcons at Titans.
When you think about Arthur Smith, I mean, honestly, it's only my love of Lawrence Jackson. In all seriousness, my love of Lawrence Jackson is the only reason I haven't completely gone off on the Atlanta Falcons. Because otherwise, they're an abomination of a franchise.
But please do
With
if
a
you
dis-
feel the need.
with a disaster of a head coach, Lawrence. Defend
so,
Arthur Smith.
Yeah, so I don't know if I could do all that, but is there any concern for Bijan this week? Well,
I would say so. What, RB15?
it is.
That spells concern.
Yeah, I have him outside my top 12, running back 13 or something. And the concern isn't even really him, and not even versus this Tennessee, because like Tennessee is 14th against running backs in fantasy. They're good, but they're not great like they once were. They've given up 5 yards a carry versus the last 3 teams' lead running backs. But the worry is, how is Bijan Robinson going to get used? So yeah, there is concern simply because of that. If I'm walking into today knowing that Bijan Robinson going to get 16 to 20 touches, I'm okay with that. A player like him will make do with that. But that's not a guarantee. Hell, we didn't know he wasn't going to play last week. And then he played a couple of plays in crunch time all of a sudden. So it's just all over the place with that. So, yes, for me, there is some concern.
I think you're still starting him even in a week where there's no one on a bye. But look, over-under's 35. We don't expect a lot of scoring in this game. If there's a positive here, the Falcons are a 2.5-point favorite here. So game script should favor, they should, in theory, be able to run the ball. The positives is that if they do fall behind somehow or whatever, Robinson gets used in the passing game. But the two concerns to your point is that when they've been like basically either ahead or it's been close, it's been kind of a split between Robinson and Algier, and that was before Cordero Patterson came back. We saw a lot of Patterson last week. So the concern is it a three-headed monster? And then you've also got the rational coaching concern. Is that what is Arthur Smith? All jokes aside about Arthur Smith is like you can't trust that Arthur Smith is going to play his best players. Take a listen to Arthur. Take a listen to
Here's
Arthur Smith.
What he thinks about your fantasy frustrations.
Yeah, listen to this from earlier in the week.
Every week there's different obstacles, Josh. Whether you got 3 running backs, teams have to prepare for our 3 running backs, right? Whoever has the hot hand. Yeah, maybe I'll have to go tell Braves that, hey, Algier got the hot hand. I'm going to give him 15 carries. Maybe that's what I need to do. That's where we're headed. So make sure I don't upset anybody on their fantasy team. So maybe I'll yell across the Braves, hey, we're going to give the CP another carry here.
There's a guy. And here's Cordero Patterson. Why so serious?
Right.
Appropriately arriving, dressed as
the
like
Joker.
Heath Ledger's Joker.
Right. Got the purple
Do y'all
jacket.
know why he dressed like that? That's his that too. Yeah. That's his official position on the depth chart.
Oh, Joker.
Is Joker.
Oh, that's cool.
That's right.
I like that. A big Joker or a little Joker?
Well, the way he was toting around last week, he the big Joker.
But I'm going to say this, though. Go back to Arthur Smith, that Joker Arthur Smith, with all due respect. Does a guy like that, does he look like he has any F's to give about your fantasy team? Like he just, like the look on his face said, like, what do I care?
No, but correct. And by the way, I'll defend Arthur Smith on this one point. He should give 0 F's about our fantasy teams.
For sure.
His entire job is to win games for the Atlanta Falcons. I got no issue with that. The issue
but is not giving Bijan Robinson the ball even before he was sick.
Right.
Is that the best way to win games?
That's my point. Is like he's like, I'm going to ride the hot hand. The hot hand, like, in all seriousness, one of two things is true.
Don't draft the committee running back at the 8th pick.
Right, exactly. One of two things is true. Either Bijan Robinson is the best player in your running back room by a mile, right? And so it's an incredible misuse of resources. But to have Cordero Patterson, a 32-year-old Cordero Patterson, or a 5th-round draft pick in Tyler Algier taking touches away from what many people consider to be a generational talent in Bijan Robinson. So either Bijan Robinson is the best guy in your running back room, and it's a massive misuse of resources by an NFL head coach who should be using his best players to win NFL games, or it's a massive miscalculation because if Bijan Robinson isn't better than the other guys and can be beaten out by Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson on any given, series, then in that case, why on earth would you use a top 10 overall pick in the NFL draft on a running back?
Jay,
it's a massive misuse of either draft capital
or talent.
Or talent.
Or mismanagement. Jay, this is what bothered me going into the draft. And I know as there was buzz building about the Falcons taking Bijan Robinson, I'm like, why? If a position that is being, for the most part, devalued, with the exception recently of Jonathan Taylor getting his contract, a devalued position, and you found a running back to run for 1,000 yards who finished the year the way Tyler Algier did last year in the 5th round, why invest top 10 capital in running back? Now only to not use him properly.
I mean, it's completely ridiculous. And to
Forget
your point,
about the injury report.
Tyler Algier is the epitome of why you don't need to spend a top 10 pick on a running back, particularly if you're not going to use him. I get that Bijan, he is, in the past 20 years, top 3 running back prospects, Adrian Peterson, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson. And I think when he's been out there, he's looked the part. He's looked incredible. So I don't really understand what's happening there. I'm not too worried about last week in terms of the headache and everything. I think that was an outlier. He'll be fine. What I am concerned about with Bijan is that we're in week 8. He doesn't have a rushing touchdown yet. Tyler Algier is still getting a ton of carries. It's actually a bet I like in this game, which is that Bijan is set at 48.5 rushing yards. Tyler Algier is set at 34.5. Over on both of them. because I think you're much more likely to go 2-0 than 0-2, and one of those guys is going over that number because the Titans' run defense.
I like
isn't what it
parlaying
was.
that. I like that. I like that as a parlay.
Hey, Lars, before we move on, because we could literally spend an entire documentary on what it's like to be a Falcons fan. But just from a Falcons fan's perspective, what is it like to watch Bijan Robinson, and for that matter, before it was Bijan, it was free Kyle Pitts, Drake London. Watch all these guys run
top
around,
10
and
picks.
it just seemed like the coach has no idea how to use it
and
properly.
for the record, I wanted the Falcons to find a way to get Anthony Richardson, but they took Bijan Robinson, and that's cool. Like, when they make these top 10 draft picks on skilled players, I'm like, all right, great. Let's see what you do with them. We still, speaking of Kyle Pitts and Drake London and now Bijan Robinson, it's like, that's who you should be leaning on. But, if they move to 5-3 today, it's like, what can we say?
Can't complain.
I don't have a problem with Algier getting his touches. Even sprinkle Cordero Patterson in there if you want. But like Jay said, when you see these guys run the ball, you see the difference, and you see why he was the prospect that he was and why he was picked where he was picked. So it's crazy, man. Like, even just going back to the Matt Ryan days, like, Atlanta would be the team to lose a Super Bowl exactly like that.
Yeah, I posted, I did a similar rant about Arthur Smith on Fantasy Football Happy Hour earlier this week, and I posted the video, and one guy came at me and he says, yeah, well, we beat the Commanders. And I'm like, he goes, we beat the Commander. He said, I'm sorry, no. All he said was, he said, hey, yeah, well, we're first place in the NFC South, and we have a better record than your fantasy team. And I'm like, well, first off, you guys lost to my Commanders, and we're terrible. So, just FYI, like, we're not a good football team, the Commanders, and we still beat you guys. And number two is first place in the NFC South ain't the flex you think it is. Right? By the way, I'm 7-0 in my fantasy league. So I just don't,
You will
6-1 in our show
you
league.
will see Desmond Ridder, Baker Mayfield, or Derek Carr in the playoffs, and you're going to love it.
No.
We got no choice.
No choice.
All right.
Choice.
Moving on to.
I just hope that's not the Peacock game.
Moving on to a game that a lot of people think could be a Super Bowl preview, or at least coming into the season they thought it could be a Super Bowl preview, and that's Bengals at 49ers. Want to focus this
All right. So, this is our burning question.
Yes. Want to focus this on the Bengals side in particular, and whether or not one player in particular, and that's T. Higgins, your wide receiver 21, Matthew, whether he can get off against a suddenly, dare I say, vulnerable Niners defense.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. He's been bad this year. He's got one game so far this year with more than 21 receiving yards. Prior to the bye, he played under 55% in the two games prior to their bye, dealing with that rib injury. He's had under 5 fantasy points. I mean, this is a crazy stat. He's had under 5 fantasy points in 4 out of 5 games this season. Here are the positives about him. In his 3 full games where he's fully healthy, weeks 1 through 3, he had 28 targets, a 24% target share. He's coming off the bye. He's not on the injury report. He should be fully healthy. To your point, Michael, the Niners have allowed at least 100 receiving yards to a wide receiver in back-to-back games. I get it. Jamar Chase is all that and a bag of, Dollaritas. But
now in bag form.
That sounds messy.
I would drink from a bag of Dollaritas. Let's be clear.
Yeah, you basically did on last
I
Sunday.
really did. I really did. They should do that. They should have, Dollaritas to go, just in a bag form.
Pouch.
Anyway, or an IV. Can we get me an IV of Dollaritas? Anyway, I'm trusting T. Higgins. I believe, look, for the Bengals to get to where they need to be, T. Higgins has to be a part of this offense. He has to be a bigger part of this offense. And so I think they will make a concerted effort coming out of the bye to get him involved. They're going to need to your point, again, the Niners defense, while good, they're not amazing. And they've somebody they'd give it up throughout the year. Even when they were rolling and winning, they were still giving them a lot of receptions to opposing wide receivers. I'm at wide receiver 21, a borderline top, wide receiver 2 this week.
Michael.
And for whatever it's worth, I am starting him in a guillotine league. Again, a guillotine league, if you have the lowest score in the league, you're cut.
Yeah.
So I'm
that's
putting my money where my mouth is. I believe.
You mean you trust him. Michael Thomas needs an upside half PPR flex position. Higgins, Lockett, Rashee Rice, Tajay Spears, Roshan Johnson, or Jeff Wilson Jr.
Yeah, listen, I like Rashee Rice. I'm not crazy about Lockett today. To me, but it's Higgins, and I don't think it's all that close.
Higgins.
Again, you're talking about upside. Higgins has 2 touchdown potential. I mean, we saw it earlier this year. He had the one great game. with that quarterback, that offense, in a game in which I think they'll need to score to keep up with the Niners, I think Higgins is your choice there. And like I said, I don't think it's all that close.
But side note on that, I do like his running back room from a depth standpoint.
Yes, sir.
Like down the road between Tajay Spears and Roshan Johnson, you could be cooking with gas.
I picked up Roshan Johnson this morning in a 12-team league. Just
Did you?
like, yeah,
He could
it's
be
a
an
Superflex
RB1
league.
rest
Like,
of the way.
Yeah.
just
for the Bears.
I was going through and just somebody dropped him and not paying attention. So anyway, just something to
Just on the Bengals, I think with Joe Burrow, who's going to have an extra week of rest, he also was trending in the right direction the 2 weeks before the bye. He was basically, his time to throw after feeling pressure was getting longer. He was moving away from pressure. We don't think of Joe Burrow as being super dependent on his mobility like we do, like a Lamar Jackson or these running quarterbacks. But Joe Burrow, he's never played behind a good offensive line, so he's always facing pressure. And so much of the value of that passing game is the deep ball stuff. So I think Burrow, he will be better, and Higgins and Chase will be a lot better for him.
I wonder if the Bengals will like the Niners if they're angry, because no sacks against Kirk Cousins, getting cooked by Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Week before we saw what happened against Cleveland. I wonder if that Niners defense has really got a chip on its shoulder, more so than usual today.
I'm just funny. Do you think that like Fred Warner is in the locker room going, "We got cooked by Kirk Cousins. Look yourself in the mirror. We got cooked by Kirk Cousins."
Yeah, he doing that in some form
As
or
opposed
fashion.
to just, we need to step it up, but it's literally that.
Like, guys, come on.
Guys, there's nothing worse than that. There's no greater insult than that.
Jeez, all right.
Poor Kirk Cousins.
Kirk
Cousins played well.
No, he totally did.
Give the man credit. Kirk Cousins played
Cousins
well.
is good. He's good.
Kirk Cousins
It wasn't
is
just,
good.
when I
He's
say
not great,
Kirk,
but
when
he's
I,
good.
when I say cooked by Kirk Cousins, it
know,
wasn't
I
a
know.
referendum on Kirk. It was more just like whoever they played last week.
I know.
It just,
But
they
it's just
happened to
funny.
play. Yeah, it
It's
did
just
sound like
funny.
I was shading Kirk
It's just
Cousins.
funny.
It did sound that
It
way.
did,
No,
yeah.
I'm glad you picked up on it.
All
All right. Chargers, Bears. Look at this from the Chargers side. Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler. Do they eat in this matchup? Looks like it from your rankings, Matthew. QB 4 and running back 3, respectively.
I think they have a big game here. Even if Josh Palmer doesn't go, he's trending towards playing, but it's going to be a game-time decision. That's the Sunday night game right here on Peacock and NBC, of course. Chargers have the second highest implied team total this week, so certainly DraftKings expects them to score a lot of points. Again, Bears allowing over 20 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks prior to facing the Brian Hoyer, Aiden O'Connell experience last week. They're tied for the second most touchdown passes allowed this season. So I think Herbert cooks, and then you're like, okay, well, where are those passes going, right? And so we know Keenan Allen's going to get his, but I also think Austin Eckler, who's had a little bit of a slow return to the Chargers, but the Bears allow the most receiving yards to running backs. They're tied for the most receiving touchdowns allowed to running backs. So I really like the over on the receiving prop for Austin Eckler this week. And again, you're obviously already starting him, but I do think he has a really big game. And I think the Chargers offense we've been expecting to see happens tonight. Again, Herbert's been off a little bit. He's missed some easy touchdowns. I think go Chargers, go.
Jay?
Terrifying.
Go, Jay, go.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
We've heard that a lot lately.
Yeah.
I'm not
And I
sure
don't
about
get
it.
any better at it either.
No, it's getting worse, in fact.
Okay,
It's actually trending in the wrong direction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go Chargers, go. Stephen,
yeah,
find that
slightly
clip.
better. He's
right.
Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger
The
saying that.
first time he did it in 2022, it was better. I think the thing with Justin Herbert, and we've talked about this throughout the week, is that the past 2 games, Justin Herbert has left 200 yards and 3 touchdowns on the table just for Keenan Allen. He's just missed him wide open multiple times. And I think if he just connected on those throws, one, Keenan Allen is like the number 2 wide receiver in fantasy. And then secondly, Justin Herbert, his stats look a lot better. So I think he'll get right against the Bears secondary.
All
Someone
right.
on YouTube.
You got a YouTube question? Yeah, look.
Yeah,
you heard
I
it.
like the sound.
Who should he start in the flex? This is Derek Mostert or Puka Nacua. PPR league, he's got Kamara and Jonathan Taylor at running back, Jamar Chase and AJ Brown at wide receiver.
He's
You're
just
in first
bragging.
place. That's
boy,
pretty good.
load
spot
it
right
up.
there.
Hey, Derek, I'll tell you who you start in the flex. Yourself, man, because that is a flex. When you look at that
Yeah, let's
team,
put Ashbrook in
that
the
is,
flex.
yeah,
Why not?
Derek Ashbrook, that is a flex.
Feeling really good.
I'm going with Puka Nacua. I'm going with Puka Nacua there. I get it with Mostert. I don't think you can screw it up because I think both guys have big games here. But I'm just.
Puka's a set it and forget it guy at this point.
Yeah,
don't
we
even
saw a
think
bad
it's
I'll
game
go
from
Nacua.
Mostert last week. We've seen that Mostert can be human.
Yeah.
Again, the Dolphins have so many ways to beat you. They may not, again. if
Jeff
the
Wilson
Pa-
may get more touches this week.
Exactly, Savon Ahmed. If they Jalen Ramsey returning for the Dolphins defense, if the Patriots sort of fall behind and it gets big, like you could see them trying to get other guys involved, like Wilson and Ahmed, get them some.
But
reps
I will
today.
say this, just in general, not for this decision, Derek, but just in general when it comes to Raheem Mostert or any Dolphins running back for that matter, Bill Belichick, what he had 3 safeties deep? Like, he did everything possible to make sure Tua was not throwing it deep to Waddle and Hill. They might end up having to run the ball in Miami.
I mean, I will tell you this, though, for whatever it's worth, Derek. I've Mostert at 9. I have Jonathan Taylor at 14. I mean, like the Saints are no pushover.
Yeah.
I actually probably, I mean, again, with my ranks, I actually would bench Jonathan Taylor. I'd start
Okay,
Mostert.
now that's interesting.
I'd start Mostert, put Nakua in your flex, and because I prefer Nakua to Jonathan Taylor.
First
What do you
world
think
problem.
about that way?
That's not bad. You about to say something, Lawrence?
No, just what I said about the way the Patriots played the Dolphins pass. They was really focused on that the last game they met, and it ended up, Raheem Mostert ended up springing along, going for a touchdown and getting over 140 yards rushing, but agree with the Puka Nakua call here.
Hold on, but before we move on from, we were on Chargers, Bears, I want to go back to Matthew's ranking, Stephen, if you don't mind, for that game, because I got for once in this show's history, I need to make it about me and my teams. Okay, just this once, just this once. Okay,
time,
it never happened.
We got a Velus Jones Jr. thing coming up from you.
No, not quite. But I have
Pretty good obscure reference, though.
critical dynasty matchup. And I have both Roschon Johnson and Deontay Foreman. And I was going to start Foreman, but you got Roschon at 34, Foreman at 35. I'm like, gee, Matthew, thanks a lot. Like, I just figured
that's how I could really go too.
Right.
But after that game Foreman had, I figured they'd maybe stay with him before turning it over to Roschon.
To me, again, it is a coin flip, obviously.
Yeah.
We just don't know. The argument here is that we expect the Chargers to be up and up big in this game.
Yeah.
Right? And so, I mean, at the moment, they're 9.5-point favorites.
So the
line
passing
keeps
work
moving.
for Johnson?
Exactly. Foreman's just a 0 for the most part in the passing game.
Okay.
And so
right.
the expectation is that Roschon Johnson, that if they get behind, you've got a better shot with Johnson on the field than you do with Foreman.
Especially with
trailing.
Tyson Bagent throwing it short the way he did last time. Yeah.
So I again, like, Foreman likely could fall into the end zone. If you're telling me one of these guys scores a touchdown, I think Foreman's most likely to get the goal line carry when they get close.
Okay.
But if you're looking at sort of game script, again, I have them right next to each other, but I specifically made the choice to put Johnson over Foreman because of the passing game usage and because I expect them to be trailing by a lot in the second half.
Thanks for that breakdown. During the break, I'll have you look at the lineup, and maybe the answer is neither.
Yeah.
maybe that's the right answer.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to
maybe it's Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah.
Your guy.
He's coming. Right, Lawrence?
He is.
There's still
The
time.
little hammy slowed him down a little bit.
All right, moving on to our last burning question, and that's coming from Rams at Cowboys. Speaking of a muddled backfield in the absence of Kyron Williams, Darrell Henderson seems to be the guy now, but does he keep it going against that tough Cowboys defense? Matthew, for what it's worth, which is not much, I've already traded Darrell Henderson and cashed in on just his opportunity, as opposed to what I expect him to do again while he and Royce Freeman, for that matter, are filling in for Kyron Williams.
I have him at running back 20. I mean, the fact of the matter is that this is somebody who last week got 100% of the running back red zone touches. Sean McVay likes to run in close. He likes to basically give it to one guy. And at the moment, it appears to be Darrell Henderson, who played 58% of the snaps. He got 61% of the team's running back touches last week as well. 19 touches overall. I'm at running back 20. So, he's a borderline RB2 for me. It's not a great matchup with Dallas, to your point. They have the 8th best rush defense in the NFL over the last 4 weeks as well. They allowed their top 10 in terms of fewest fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs. But while it's a good defense, it's not a great defense. It's not impenetrable. Yeah. And I do think, especially on the road at Dallas, McVay is going to want to try to run the ball. And so I think volume and the opportunity to get into the end zone make Henderson a borderline top 20
But Freeman
play.
was the more efficient and led the team in rushing last week. Go figure. Start one for Jason Gold. One flex, half PPR, Chris Olave, Jordan Addison, Marquise Brown, or the aforementioned Darrell Henderson.
Can't start Jordan Addison.
Really? You don't think so? I mean,
I'm tripping. I'm thinking of Sunday night. I'm sorry, when they played against the Niners.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right. Okay.
All these days run together, man. No, trust me. I'm day to day. Yeah.
Jordan Addison, you definitely could start him.
Right.
I was going to say, especially because Alexander is banged up, and so I mean, Addison getting. But I'll tell you this: I have Olave at 17. Addison at 18. I think it's between those two. I get the revenge game narrative for Marquise Brown against Baltimore, but they've been really good defensively. We just talked up Henderson here. In questions like this, when it is, sort of a toss-up, where I think it is. I think it's a toss-up between Olave and Addison. When it's a toss-up, I just go with the better player, and that's Chris Olave. I like Jordan Addison quite a bit, but I think Olave is just a better NFL player at this stage of both of their careers.
Is he
So-
though?
I think so.
I think Addison's been great,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
think Olave's special.
Olave's been banged up as well. He played a game against the Patriots where he couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I think Olave
This is
special.
not my inner New Orleanian talking, but I ain't trusting the Saints offense right about now.
Which
I
is-
trust Derek Carr to cuss out Chris Olave. If that's who is scoring, I trust that to happen. Meanwhile, all I know is Jordan Addison is beasting these days.
Michael Thomas showed up on the injury report
Yeah,
late
that
this
he
week
did.
as well, so he
That
might
he
be
did.
less than 100%, and
Yeah.
active's coming up here just in a little
Listen
bit.
to the
But
man.
again,
Start Chris Olave.
I'm saying Chris Olave, but again, it is a coin flip between him and Jordan Addison. So Jason, if you're feeling Addison, I got no issue with it, but it's between those two. I have Olave one spot higher.
All right, you guys ready to call some shots and take some shots? in the
Dude,
process?
I'm always
Lush
down
you.
for some shots. Yeah.
I know you are.
Yeah, I mean, again, vodka ain't dollaritas, but I'll do it.
All right, shot number one.
Yes, sir.
Jay, make it a good one. Let's go.
It's one of my favorites. Do you guys know what Jalen Hyatt's receiving prop is today?
What's
No.
that?
20 and a half.
That's
Jalen
it?
Hyatt, he had 75 yards last week, played on 71% of snaps. It's
like
way
2
too low.
catches last week,
Yeah,
right? Something
yep.
like that.
And he had 5 targets. He goes over that, and he finishes wide receiver 1 in the game between the Jets and the Giants.
I love him. He's been a great stash.
I like that.
He's starting to reward that. Matthew.
All right. The Colt, the Indianapolis Colt with the most fantasy points. Let me get my Colt. Oh, here we go. Here's my Colt one. Okay, thanks. I have to make sure listen, it's all about branding. The Colt with the most fantasy points this week isn't Michael Pittman. It isn't Jonathan Taylor. It is Josh Downs. Slot receivers kill the Saints because Lattimore takes out, he'll take out Pittman as well.
One way
So
or the
Josh
other.
Downs going against me for Michael Smith's team
Yeah,
in our
he
show
is.
league has a monster game today.
Let's go. Your lips to the
said
fantasy
it's-
god's ears. Lawrence.
All right, so look, in week 2, Tua Tagovailoa was quarterback 26 against the New England Patriots, only throwing for just under 250 yards, but the Patriots have given up at least 260 passing yards 3 of the last 4 games. They'll be more prepared for that 3-deep umbrella this time around. Tua will throw for at least 293 yards. You love that number.
That was very specific.
And 3 touchdowns against the New England Patriots today, and they smoke them.
All right. Listen, after that Lamar Jackson call last week, you had a lot of good calls last week, but the Lamar Jackson in particular, listen to Lawrence Jackson.
100%.
My turn.
Let's keep it going, baby. Let's keep it going.
That was a great. By the way, go ahead. I'm
Go ahead and bet accordingly?
I'm gonna bet those 2 bets. I like the Algier and Bijan, and I like Jalen Hyatt. Yeah. Go ahead.
Speaking
I'm
of Dolphins Patriots, let me give DeMario Pop Douglas popping off for 100 receiving yards.
I saw you picked him up in our
and
league.
I sure did. Didn't start him. I started him in another league. But,
All right.
He's their most explosive weapon with the ball in his hands. Had, I think, 74, if I recall correctly, yards from scrimmage. Even broke a 25-yard punt return. He's just getting it done. Coming into his own. Almost got in the end zone last week. I think he does this week. 100 yards and a touchdown for Pop Douglas.
Okay. I like that.
Yes, sir.
I like that a lot.
Shot number 2, we're going A.J. Brown. He goes over 125 receiving yards for the 6th straight game, going up against Matthew's beleaguered Commanders secondary, who play a ton of man coverage, top 2 in the league for playing man coverage. A.J. Brown destroys man coverage. He will go off again.
Have we figured out exactly what was said on the sideline that Thursday night game against Minnesota? Have we figured that week 2 game where Jalen Hurts
Whatever it was.
whatever was said,
No, he's the best wide receiver in football.
it's just, he got message received.
Yes. According to source, it was just like, dude, you had me on your fantasy team. What's going on? And Jalen's like, oh, that's right, I do. That's right, I do. By the way, as I went to go make this bet, by the way, Jalen Hyatt's receiving prop went down to 19.5.
Are you
Went
serious?
down. It's minus 125, but still, it's
the
19.5.
disrespect for Tyrod Taylor. That's what this is,
1000%.
man.
I mean, I get it. I guess they're saying DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, but come on.
You can't run the ball on the Jets. You're going to have to throw. The Jets actually have a better rushing defense than pass defense.
Yeah. So that to me, that's why that is. All right. Time for.
You done with your bet?
Yeah.
We can come back to you.
No, I'll go back. I'll go back. I still got to put in the Algier. Okay. So I am doing an all rookie wide receiver shot
there's a
for
theme.
shot.
Okay.
There's a theme.
I love it.
Josh Downs my last one. So here's my next one. Rashee Rice, who has 3 straight games with double-digit fantasy points, had a season-high snap rate last week. He has his best game of the season today, at least 15 or more fantasy points against Denver, who again struggles in the slot. He's not going to see Patrick Surtain. I'm not worried about the weather at all. Rashee Rice, big game coming today for Rashee Rice.
We like that one.
All
We
right.
like that
That is
one.
a good call.
I'm going to go from quarterback. Now I'm going to go to running backs. Going back to that, Jay, you just said it's hard to run against the Jets. Well, here we go with it. Breece Hall and Saquon will both have 100 scrimmage yards and a touchdown today. And yes, it is hard to run up against that Jets defense, but they give up 6.8 receptions, which is second most in the league, and 53 receiving yards a game to running backs. Saquon's not in the committee. He got a receiving touchdown last week, so we like that on his side. He's also got 118 yards in one game since returning, 98 in the other. Breece Hall, the Giants have given up a rushing touchdown to a running back in every game but one this season. So give me that. Both of those guys going off today.
All right. I'm going to give you a little more of an obscure running back.
Oh, really? On brand?
Keaton Mitchell, Amari DeMarcado, and Cris Rodriguez.
Oh, sure. My Commanders.
Yes.
My beloved Commanders.
C-Rod.
Who has been eating
C-Rod.
into B-Rob's playing time, led the team in rushing. This week he scores, will lead the team in rushing again, will be a more popular ad than he already is. Might be a little too late to pick him up. I've been stashing him since the rookie draft.
I think he's
Cris Rodriguez.
I think unless you play in a 20-team league, I think Cris Rodriguez is out there. But not a bad pickup. I don't mind that one as well. Last one here for me yet again.
Rookie receiver.
Another rookie wide receiver.
like
How
it.
about Zay Flowers? 100 yards and a touchdown, maybe even 2 today
Yes, sir.
for Zay Flowers. No team in the NFL has allowed more yard to wide receivers than the Arizona Cardinals. The Ravens offense is popping. It's finally getting going. We're looking for positive touchdown regression from Zay Flowers, who's getting a lot of looks and just hasn't gotten in the end zone a lot. 1 touchdown, and I think probably 2 for Zay Flowers. Monster game coming for Zay.
We love that one. Love
Okay.
it.
Jay, what you got?
I'm saying Derek Carr breaks out today, throws for 300-plus yards against a pretty weak Colts secondary that just gave up 39 points to P.J. Walker.
All right, I like it.
All right,
right,
last
Mark.
one for me. Give me DeAndre Hopkins finishing outside the top 40 receivers in fantasy this week. 1 catch last week, 3 against Cleveland. He's got another good defense today in the Falcons.
Last
with
game as a
Will
Titan?
Levis, possibly. We'll see, but that's where I'm going with it today.
All right. I'm biased. Just talked to him for Gets It for Football Night in America. Just came back from Chicago.
Yeah.
Tyson Bagent.
Yeah.
Kid's got something. Got a good head on his shoulders. He gets it. He'll get it done tonight on Sunday Night Football. 2 touchdown passes against the Chargers and a win that improves him.
Okay.
He's 2-0 as a starter. 1-loss records only count for quarterbacks when convenient. Great story. 2-0 for Tyson Bagent.
If that, by the way, if that, I'm picking the Chargers. So I'll give it away now. I'm picking the Chargers tonight on Football Night in America. But if that happens, first off, that would be amazing because I'm rooting for the kid. And secondly, Brandon Staley has to be fired immediately. You have to fire him immediately.
Yeah.
If you lose at home on prime time,
Tyson Bagent?
to Tyson Bagent. But I agree with you. The kid has something.
He's
The
got
kid
something.
is there's
He got
something there. I'm with you.
It's not
I'm
too
with
big
you.
for him. Moment's not too big for him.
Well,
at all.
Brandon Staley, I know he watches the show.
He's like a young Lawrence Jackson. Got an opportunity at prime time and he showed up.
But this card would be bigger than Lamar Jackson from last
Miles
week.
Morales out of costume. Okay, I love
All
it.
right.
I watch Spider-Man Into the
That's-
Spider-Verse and
yeah.
Beyond the Spider-Verse pretty much every other day.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Miles Morales out of costume. I'm
Yeah,
digging it.
that's that movie. Both Spider-Man, both animated Spider-Mans and Into the Spider-Verse are from Lord and Miller, Phil Lord, Chris Miller, big fantasy football players.
Yeah.
By the way, I've been in leagues with those guys.
Tell those guys
They're
I'm
awesome.
a big fan of their work.
I will let them know that they're awesome people.
All
So
right.
anyway, and I like
So's
the
Garrett
costume.
Wilson.
A little bit. Yes, this is true. Let's get a touchdown today, Garrett.
All right, you have the internet, and you're also using the screen to watch us, we hope, on Peacock and on YouTube. So in case you missed it, here are the key actives and inactives for the early games. As you see there, Trevor Lawrence is up. You already knew that Daniel Jones and Ryan Tannehill were not going to be available today. Raheem Mostert, Zach Moss, both active. Zay Jones out for Trevor Lawrence. Curtis Samuel, Darren Waller, Luke Musgrave, all active. Another note, Patrick Mahomes was added to the injury report with an illness this morning. Still going to play. You're still going to start him. It's snowing. He's sick. Just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting?
Yeah.
He had an illness like last night.
Imagine that.
And so the Chiefs, because they follow the rules, they're not a bunch of cheaters.
Imagine that.
They added, hey, just so you know,
Somebody
Mahomes
else
is
did
less
that
than
too.
100%.
Yeah.
I hate cheaters.
There's a
I hate
chance
'em.
that I may not go, but he's
what a
probably going to
concept.
go.
Ain't
So,
it just nice that
anyway,
they let
just-
us know?
Just a heads up, Arthur Smith, that's how it's done.
That's how you do it.
it's done.
Thank you,
Arthur
Chiefs.
Smith. Thank you, Chiefs, for not being a bunch of cheaters.
Get a jump
You know
on
who
your.
won't be investigated by the NFL this week? The Chiefs.
They will not.
No, sir.
They can continue their investigation of the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
Lawrence,
Yeah.
they continue to be focused on that.
That was so dirty. It was so dirty. All right. And the Saints added Michael Thomas with the injury. It's like, it's like
exactly.
Yeah,
What's
it's not
amazing
hard.
is
It's not
that
hard.
there's it's a one-sided argument because not even Falcons fans. Here's Lawrence. Lawrence is like, you're right. You
I
know
mean,
what
it's just like, in general, like, let a brother know something. man.
That's right.
So, my favorite time of the show.
Yes, sir.
Waiver wire ads.
We should just call this Michael Smith's deep running back waiver ads.
Yeah, I mean, my man Amari DeMarcado's on this
Right.
list. Got the Rams backfield. Devin Singletary is, I think, the most interesting one to me, just in terms of how he's working his way into a timeshare with Damian Pierce. it seems
We
like,
talked
right?
about him this week on Fantasy Football Happy Hour with the idea that Singletary is actually potentially a better fit for the kind of offense they're running in Houston, right? It's very much a Kyle Shanahan, West Coast kind of type offense where he's a kind of a better fit. And so Singletary, who had 13 touches and 54% of the snaps last week, he could be the starter at Carolina. It's going to be really interesting. He should be rostered in more leagues.
Speaking of which,
these aren't even that deep. I mean, these aren't deep as like
No,
deep. Like
which is- but-
Chris Rodriguez is like deep.
but why would Tank Dell be available in over 50% of leagues?
I'll tell you why, because they were on a bye last week and he's missed the last couple games with the concussion. So people may have just been like, I gotta like.
Yeah, maybe
that's
roster
what,
management.
That's what it is.
Okay,
But
I traded
look,
last night, Matthew. I traded a 25 fourth for Juwan Jennings, who was targeted 9 times. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I just wanted to shout out Ferris Bueller by saying 9 times last week against the Minnesota Vikings. And I think he could get some more of those targets this week against Cincinnati.
Look, I mean, he's basically free. He's out there in a bunch of leagues, or like a 2025 fourth in Dynasty is also basically free. But yeah, I mean, especially with Deebo Samuel banged up, he becomes sort of interesting as well. Tank Dell, I think, has a big game. 55 receiving yards in 3 of the past 4 games that he's played.
Yep.
He fits well in this matchup.
Can I just say, Michael absolutely nailed his 80s film reference after on Friday or Thursday show. Matthew completely butchered allusions to the Karate Kid and couldn't remember Johnny Lawrence's name.
I couldn't.
Really?
But by the way, I got no help from Jay or Connor.
where you
I was out there.
Well, Connor never saw it. He wasn't even born. So,
exactly. I made the reference because you've watched Cobra Kai, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, Connor looks like Robbie Keane, the troubled kid on Cobra Kai. If you put the two of them together,
Connor
to say
does have that
Connor
look to
Rogers
him.
is kind of a Cobra Kai thing. Anyway, we talked about Cobra Kai. We talked about the Karate Kid, and I'll one last sentence and then we'll move on. But what's amazing about Karate Kid?
I'm talking about Tyson Bagent
about
Sam Howell.
Oh, Cobra Kai.
Okay, more important.
They have mined that dumb movie for so they've gotten 5 seasons. It's unbelievable. Like I watched every episode, by the way. I love that show.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like they'll be like, think about this guy, and you're like that guy, and it's literally one snippet of one scene from like the third movie that you completely have forgotten about. It's anyway.
Michael wants to know.
Speaking of Singletary.
Madison Singletary or DeMarcado half PPR?
It's Madison. Come on, now you're just getting silly. I get it. He's
No
been
disrespect, Michael.
I mean, but no, like, I get it. I mean, here's the thing. It's closer than you'd think. I'll just tell you right now. I've
Closer
Madison.
than you think. You just said he was getting silly.
I'm just closer than people might think.
Okay.
I have Madison at 23. I have Singletary at 28. and I have DeMarcado at 31. So you have them ranked in the right order there in terms of your question, Michael. But I get the question about Madison just because we've seen Cam Akers continue to eat into his workload. But what's weird is that this is the best game we've seen Alexander Madison play. Not necessarily from a box score perspective, but just from the eye test. Like, he ran hard against San Francisco.
8 for 39? Yeah, he looked explosive.
Yeah, he looked
explosive. And they benched him down the stretch.
No, I'm dead serious, but he did, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Cam Akers looked good, too. But you would start
Akers
Madison here. You would start Madison here.
Yeah, I know who I'm rolling with.
Packers are a bottom 3 run defense over the last 4 weeks. This game's in Lambeau. They're going to want to run the ball.
Y'all know who
Madison's
I'm rolling
your
with, just on GP. Moving on to our next question. Forget about it. 12-team league, full PPR. Pick one for flex, Singletary. A lot of Singletary questions. Hopkins, KJ Osborne, or AJ Dillon?
I'm going Singletary here. Again, I mean, you heard Lawrence on DeAndre Hopkins. I agree with it. I just don't think you want any part of that Tennessee passing offense right now. Dillon, again, we just have no idea with Aaron Jones there and with KJ Osborne. I like KJ Osborne. He's running a lot of routes, but again, I can't bench because they have Hawkinson, because they have Jordan Addison. It feels like in a game in which they're favored, Osborne might be the fourth option on that offense. You know, if you consider the running back one position, right? You've got Hawkinson, Addison, and whoever, whether it's Akers or Madison. I prefer Madison to Akers.
Powell getting targets.
So
yeah.
I think Singletary, who should get 50% of the work for Houston in a game where they're favored. They're 3.5-point favorites against Carolina. No team in the NFL, except for one, has given up more rushing yards per game over the last 4 weeks than the Carolina Panthers. You can run on them, and so that's my expectation as Houston comes out. And I think both Pierce and Singletary are flex viable. That's where I would go.
All right, we got another question. We're going to go to another question. This one from Twitter to the hashtag FF Pregame. Touchdown league needs 2 running backs and 1 flex from Pollard, Mostert, Kamara, Swift, and St. Brown.
Swift, I mean, but it's a touchdown league, so you're looking at who's most likely to score a touchdown.
I think Tony Pollard has to be started.
Yes, and Mostert too.
As well.
It's really between Kamara and Swift for me for that third spot. I think Pollard and Mostert are the 2 guys you're definitely going with.
The problem with both of those dudes is Kamara could get Taysom Hill, and
Right.
Swift could get Jalen Hurts.
And Jamal Williams is healthier as
Yeah.
well.
Swift.
I like Swift.
I'll
I'm
go
going with
Swift.
Swift.
Yeah,
for
7-point
touchdown.
favorite.
Go with the
As long
better
as he does it
offense.
outside the 5.
Yeah, go with the better offense in that
offense, yeah.
situation.
I mean, again, my Commanders we're not so good.
No, you're not.
We're not so good.
They
not
gonna
so-
compete
We're
though.
not, we'll be all
They
right.
gonna compete.
They'll be on the field playing.
All right, speaking of compete,
All right, here we
The
go.
game I
It's
usually
time for Papa
dominate.
Shot.
You dominate.
I dominate this part of it.
Loose turn.
This is-
Oh, almost an
Go ahead,
interception.
Lawrence.
You almost
I don't
aimed me for
remember the
the
last
Yeah.
time I missed until
Oh.
now.
Oh, how about now?
Wow.
Oh, hang on. He's got some
Under-
pressure
under
from his
pressure.
back.
Oh,
Not even
wow.
close.
Easily the worst one.
I gotta go
Very
back to
much-
this seat.
Very
Easily
much
the
a
worst one yet.
pocket passer, Matthew Berry.
It's awful.
And not good in the pocket either.
All right, time for proper shot. Hey, Jay, Travis Etienne has scored 2
Go
rushing
ahead.
touchdowns in 3 straight
gotta redeem
games.
myself.
Does he go over
least I
under
get the sign.
65.5 rushing yards?
I'm baffled by this line, Michael. Baffled. I think it should be 10 yards higher. He goes over this. He's leading the NFL in carries going up against the bottom 5 rushing defense in the Steelers, and they're 2-point favorites. He goes over.
Lawrence, Jalen Waddle's receptions over under 4.5.
I'm gonna go over. He's got at least 5 receptions in 3 consecutive games. He's averaged over 8 targets a game in those 3 games. Last time against New England, he went 4 for 86. So give me the over here.
Matthew, we know Lawrence loves Breece Hall today, as do you. But Breece Hall's rushing and receiving yards, do his combined yards from scrimmage go over or under 92.5?
I'm taking the over here as well. We're all in on Breece Hall. The entire show is. He's been over this number in back-to-back games. Now they're coming off of the bye. And, and so we know the expectation here is that Breece Hall, in a really good matchup with the Giants, should get a ton of work. 42 touches over his past 2 games, 68% of the snaps last week. My expectation is that he'll get north of 70 in this one as well. So in a good matchup where he's getting a ton of work, he's always a chance to break one. So yeah, I think he goes 3 straight in getting over this number. Give me the over on 92.5 total rush and receiving yards on Breece Hall.
Joe Mixon's rushing attempts against the 49ers over under 14.5.
Going under. He's gone under in 4 of 6 games. Not even a good season, Joe Mixon. Don't think he's going to be in the game script to run the ball either.
Lawrence, Joe Burrow's passing yards over under 250.5, given what Jay just said.
That actually went up. I'm actually going to go under right here. You know, you get on a bye, doesn't mean you'll come back, be the best. Before the bye, he threw for 185 against the Seahawks, and it took him 35 attempts to do that. He's had the one great game. It was against the Cardinals, and he's hit this number one other time besides that. He'll still have a good game, but I'm going under.
Matthew, oldie but goodie Adam Thielen's receiving yards over under 67.5.
I'm going over on this one. He's had 80 receiving yards in 4 straight games. Again, the line's 67.5. He's had 80 receiving yards in 4 straight games, 3 of them with over 100 receiving yards. I kind of like the alt line here as well. 13 targets or more in 3 of the past 4 games since week 4. The Texans are 29th in pass defense, and they're favored in this game. Carolina should be down in this game. They should be throwing, and where they're throwing to Adam Thielen. Give me the over 67.5 receiving yards. I'm feeling Adam Thielen.
Jay, Jalen Hurts passing and rushing yards over under 291.5.
Going over despite the injury concern, just Matthew's secondary is the reason for this thing. A.J. Brown might have half of this by himself.
Lawrence, Darrell Henderson Jr. rushing yards over under 45.5.
Again, I'm going to go under here as well. Only 61 yards on 18 carries versus Pittsburgh. Dallas is giving up 27 rushing yards to Eckler, only 51 on 19 carries to CMC. It's going to be tough. He might pay off the fantasy value with a touchdown, but I'm going to go under on the yards here.
Matthew, we know Lawrence does not like DeAndre Hopkins this week. Do his receiving yards go over or under 43.5?
I'm tweeting about the show, by the way.
I'm taking very impressive.
No, thank you very much. I'm multitasking here. Listen, I'm taking the under here. I'm completely with Lawrence here. I love DeAndre Hopkins, one of my favorite players in the NFL, but we just don't know what we're going to get out of Will Levis. We don't know how much he's going to play. We've heard there's going to be some Malik Willis as well. He's been under 40 receiving yards in 2 of the past 3 games. Again, the line's 43.5. We expect him to see a lot of A.J. Terrell in this game as well. Give me the under on 43.5 for DeAndre Hopkins.
Jay, Justin Herbert's passing yards on Sunday Night Football over under 265.5.
Going over, I think Herbert's numbers have been deflated the past couple of weeks by some uncharacteristic missed throws. I think he makes those throws tonight against the Bears secondary that is one of the weakest in the NFL.
Lawrence, Brandon Cooks receptions over under 3.5.
I'm going to go over, but this is scary. He's had at least 4 receptions in 3 of the last 4 games. This over-under in this Cowboys-Rams game is 45, so you expect to see some points. He's playing 71% of the snaps in 3 of those games, so he'll be out there. If he miss on this, hell, it'll be Michael Gallup, but I'm going over.
Matthew, you called Rashee Rice one of your shots, 15 fantasy points, receiving yards over under 42.5.
I mean, this line, talk about baffling lines to me, Jay, 42.5. So he's had 60 or more receiving yards in back-to-back games. He had 72 receiving yards when he played Denver a couple of weeks ago. Like, he almost doubled this number against the Broncos as well. I think the concerns about the weather in this game are completely overblown. It's going to be fine out there. There's not going to be a ton of wind, and so as long as there's not a lot of wind, I'm good. His snap rate, 30 to 40% to 47%, to 59% last week. His snaps continue to increase every single week. Oh, by the way, his quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. Over 42.5. This is a baffling line to me.
Yeah, on that, people often think, the books, they know something, the lines are perfect. Sometimes the lines are just wrong.
Yep.
Sometimes they're just wrong, and I agree, that's too low.
Yeah. All right. DraftKings Sportsbook is, of course, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and today new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. Instantly download the app and use promo code BARRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. We're going to send out some tweets. We're going to set some lineups. And here comes the Stevie, you're setting me up for failure here because if I mispronounce Akatsuki, the anime community will crush me.
I reckon you nailed it.
What is it? Akatsuki. That's commitment on the part of are those Jets or Giants? Those are Jets? Is that a sword?
Are you allowed to bring a sword into an NFL stadium?
You're not going to not have Randy Jackson. You're not going to not get his autograph. So
I'm going to tell you right now, they did not go through security.
Definitely didn't go through a metal detector.
I don't think they did.
Security wanted no parts of him.
No, absolutely not. You know how you have to go through those metal things when you go into a stadium? I don't think these guys did that.
Look like the League of Shadows, man.
I'm just something.
All right. You already know what it is. Tyson Bagent's Bears taking on Justin Herbert's Chargers tonight on Sunday Night Football on NBC and Peacock, preceded by Football Night in America, starring Matthew Berry, and also featuring me, my conversation with Tyson Bagent. Very sharp, diligent, driven young man for whom this moment is not too big. That's why I got him throwing for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, here's our matchup.
Speaking of big.
Steve Smith's Jags, that's Michael's team, against my team, live at noon on the cock. Again, that's referring to the
as we
fantasy
just
football
passed,
happy hour.
we just passed
Correct.
noon.
We are live at noon on the cock right
Yes,
now, too.
yes.
That's true. But it's specifically referring to the happy hour.
No, you mean the TV show.
Yeah. But the
No,
TV
network,
show.
the network is what we're referring
Exactly.
to there. Yeah.
That's what we call Peacock. You know how HBO Max went to Max?
Totally.
Right. So there you go. Same idea.
It's great branding.
Same idea with
Honestly,
Peacock.
I think if they did that, to the moon.
All right. So hang on. So Lawrence and Jay.
To a moon.
So Lawrence and Jay, break down my 6-1 team. Just got to get that in there. And Michael's,
Even though we can see the records up there already.
Michael's 4-3 team. Break this down.
We're saving our best football for later in the season.
Well, you got lucky and you took most of it. Darrell Henderson's a nice pickup there. I beat Michael last week, so I'm very familiar.
Okay, what is
with
this,
his
gang up
team.
on Shelby Day?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll be a little bit concerned about Josh Downs going off. Certainly the rookies in Downs and Nakua, they'd be the guys to sink you. I think.
You got Jamar Chase and AJ Brown. I'm wondering how you 4-3.
That's what I'm saying, dog. That's what I'm
Hall.
not worried about.
I know.
I'm
Well,
not
Brees
concerned.
Hall got
And
going
I got
a little late.
Miles Sanders, you know.
Brees
He's got
Hall got
Puka.
going a
He's
little
got
late.
Chase, AJ Brown, and Puka.
Yeah.
And Josh Downs, which is a great pickup as well.
And I put my money where my mouth is. I'm starting him already, DeMarcado.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not great at quarterback.
Real quickly,
I mean, you know,
for me-
we're a bunch of Jags. That's what
I'll
we
just
are.
say there, Jalen Hurts over Stroud for me, Chase over Amon-Ra St. Brown for you, A.J. Brown over Marquise Brown for you, Brees Hall over Mostert for you. I think Pierce over Sanders for me, although it's close. Hawkinson over Schultz for me. Puka over Henderson, obviously, that's for you.
Yeah.
Downs and Addison, that's close. I actually think Downs might there. CeeDee Lamb, my guy,
No,
Aids.
Addison.
Easily.
Aids over DeMarcado, that's that,
Easily.
and then I think Howell over Pickett for me. So I think I should win,
so I
but
can
I
keep it
think
close? Can I keep it close? Respectable?
1,000%. I mean,
Okay.
I'm only projected to beat you by like 8 points. So, I mean, again, you got with Chase and Puka and AJ Brown and Downs, you have 4 guys that could easily go. And AJ Brown, AJ.
So
yeah.
can I?
And Brees Hall. You got 5 guys that I think have big games today.
So where are you guys in the standings again? I'm 4-3.
I'm 4.
I'm last. No, I'm only ahead of
Dan and
Dan from
Mexico.
Dan in
Mexico.
Mexico.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe another guy I'm beating.
So
yeah.
I'm a fraudulent 4-win team, though. I'm like the Steelers.
I have a question about this league. This is my first. It's the second year of this show. My first year in this league.
Yes, sir.
Is there some kind of like trade embargo that wasn't? Because there's not been a single trade.
Please
in this league.
trade with me before 1 o'clock today.
I'm down. I did scratch that itch. Like,
there you
why
go.
are there no trades in this league? Is it like forbidden?
Give me Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, Brees
It's
Hall
not
for
forbidden.
Lamar.
I can't speak to anyone else. My team, I feel, is perfect.
Yeah.
Why am I going to trade?
That's fair.
Why am I going
That's
to
fair.
trade when
Yeah,
I've already got
don't-
perfect?
Yeah.
We'll get something done. Yeah, it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I'll just say this here on Fantasy
team
Football
broke.
Pregame, because I said that earlier this week on the Dynasty Exchange, I was a guest on Michael's podcast around Dynasty, and I'll just say this. I've played in fantasy leagues with Michael 15 years maybe, you and I
Something
have
like
been,
that.
something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Trading with Michael is exhausting. Exhausting.
He
Exhausting.
gonna break it down.
He
down.
I'm not a
writes it-
pushover.
I can
I'm not a
see
pushover. That's why.
He
Harvey
grinds
Specter.
you, grinds you. I'm just saying.
you're talking to somebody who
I'm
kinda
just
knows what he's talking about, so
1,000%.
you can't just
I'm
get over on me.
I love this man, but
You know?
it is. I'm just telling you, trading with Michael Smith is
I can imagine
exhausting.
that's how it'll be in leagues like this anyway. Like
Bruh.
it'll be tough to trade in a league
The
like
league we used to play in. Okay, hold on, Steve. We'll get to the rankings in a second. But like context, okay? It was Matthew Berry, Chris Mortensen, Adam Schefter. Who else is in this league? Trey Wingo.
Yeah.
Who else is in this league?
It was like Trent Dilfer,
Field
Teddy
Yates.
Bruschi, Field Yates, Stefania Bell.
I mean, it was
it
like it was
a
the
bunch
War
of
Room
insiders.
League.
It was a
So-
War Room League. So it was a bunch of ex-NFL players, former general
Right.
managers, the fantasy
Matthew
team.
and then me.
Right.
And I like to say I won it
Intensely.
twice. So the exhaustion
Intensely.
pays off with rings.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. This is true. This is true. Michael won that league twice.
All right.
No doubt.
Rankings.
I only won that league once.
Enough
so
about our
you
leagues
know?
and our teams.
Yeah,
Back
exactly.
to you.
Back to you guys.
Rankings. This is what you came to this show for. Hashtag FF Pregame so we can get to more of your questions. We said we answer a lot of questions. We talk about us a lot. Matthew, let's talk about one Jared Goff and his Monday night matchup with the Raiders.
Yeah, obviously, look, you like the fact that he's at home, where he's averaging 22.8 fantasy points per game this season. Vegas ranks 27th in pressure rate this season. That's the thing about Goff. When he has time, he is lethal. And so at home, in a clean pocket, he should have an amazing night. He's my QB7 this week.
Hey, Jay, Trevor Lawrence, he's been okay. And on that Thursday night game against the Saints, if he hadn't rescued his line with those rushing numbers, he'd have been really disappointing.
He's like the anti-Gardner Minshew, where Trevor Lawrence has been really football good, but not statistically great. Gardner Minshew's been terrible the past 2 weeks. He's turned the ball over 8 times, but he keeps on putting up numbers. He puts up the numbers, and so I think Lawrence will get right. Favorable matchup against the Steelers defense that isn't as good as its reputation.
And then there's guys like Desmond Ritter who are bad at real football and fantasy football.
That's unnecessary.
It is.
Completely unnecessary.
Hey. Just as good as a Sam Howell.
Yeah,
I know,
disagree.
right?
Just as good
You
as
guys,
a Sam Howell.
you guys are the Spider-Man meme until when it comes to quarterbacks and franchises.
Who's got the mediocre quarterback?
You've got the mediocre. You've got the mediocre quarterback.
Not mediocre. My QB1 in the show league. I'm counting on to help me take down Matthew. CJ Stroud, Lawrence.
Well, Matthew has him at 8 this week, and I have him at 6, so you might be in a good spot here going against Carolina, who's 11th worst against quarterbacks in fantasy this season. Carolina's defense is like somewhere around, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis. And don't forget, C.J. Stroud played well against the Ravens and the Falcons, 2 top 5 defenses. And one of those were his very first game as a starter here. So I like C.J. Stroud as a top 10 quarterback in fantasy this week.
All right. Let's go outside the top 10.
Yeah.
And let's focus it on Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, look, I think people get intimidated because they're like, oh, the Cowboys' defense are so great, but they're so beat up, honestly. And over the last 4 weeks, the Cowboys allowed touchdown passes at the 4th highest rate. They are not the Cowboys' defense that we saw early in the season. They're middle of the pack in terms of passing yards allowed. And so Stafford, who should have some positive touchdown regression coming to him, he's got a 2.7% touchdown rate this season. His first 2 seasons with the Rams, it was 5.6. Again, last week, Higbee should have had one. Puka Nacua should have had one. Again, both drops in the end zones as well. Positive touchdown regression is coming for Stafford, who should have to throw to keep up with the Cowboys. Yep. I am a QB13.
I'll just say with the Cowboys defense, it is ferocious if you can't block Micah Parsons to Demarcus Lawrence. If you can hold those guys off, then all of a sudden the defense becomes very vulnerable because they're just not the same in the secondary without Trayvon Diggs. So I think Stafford will actually have a decent day today.
He's somebody who gets rid of the ball quickly, and they'll have a plan for, everyone has a plan for Parsons in theory. But, I think they'll chip him and do what they can.
Hey, Lawrence, before we get to the Cowboys offense, just want to pass along a note. Again, you guys have the internet, but you're watching us and you're enthralled with our conversations. According to The Athletic, Patrick Mahomes actually needed IVs to suit up for the Broncos today. He's dealing with the flu. So, again, I don't know if that's benchable, but just something to keep in mind when it comes to Patrick Mahomes.
If they get it big, maybe do they pull him in the second half, that kind of thing. So we could see there. I'm probably not using him in DFS if you're playing a DraftKings tournament, that kind of stuff, unless you want to use him just as in a GPP. But I still think I'm still starting Travis Kelce. I'm still starting Isaiah Pacheco. I'm still believing Rashee Rice. Yep. And I'm still starting Mahomes in the leagues that I have Mahomes in.
Yeah.
Did you see him during the playoff run last year with that ankle?
Right. He was wobbling around. Exactly. Look, I don't want to break the fourth wall here, but I'll be honest with you guys. Last week when we were at Applebee's, during a commercial break, I needed IVs to keep going in the second half.
You kind of did.
They had to transfuse my blood, which was filled with delicious Dollarita. Delicious Dollarita juice. But I was able to get the IV in, and then I finished the show out. Had one of my strongest shows of the year.
So Mahomes will be fine, basically, is what I'm saying.
Ipso facto, obviously, bingo, bango, that's what it means.
Lawrence, Dak Prescott, please.
Yeah, so in that same game, Rams and Cowboys, this is interesting. The Rams are giving up 4 rushing touchdowns this season. That's tied for the most in the league right now. Dak Prescott, had his best rushing game since week 2 of 2019, going 7 for 40 and that touchdown. if he could continue doing a little something in the ground, get near that goal line, and just present himself as a threat next to Tony Pollard, he could. I got him at quarterback 10 this week. I seen Matthew had him at 12, so we close there. Jalen Hurts and Anthony Richardson, obviously better runners than Dak Prescott, but both of those guys had their best rushing days against the Rams. So if Dak could keep that in his game or get it back in his game consistently, then I like him this week.
All right, Jay, Russell Wilson.
Yeah, so last time Russell Wilson played the Chiefs, which was a couple weeks ago, he had 96 passing yards. That's bad. I think
That is
Wilson.
bad.
It's not great, but Wilson, he has quietly had the, we talked about the Russessance in the preseason. Really kind of Russessance. It's not quite gotten there, but he has been
He's
better.
a top 10 fantasy quarterback, though.
I know. It's
been
just
right.
more the team. There's no vibes around Russell Wilson, but he quietly has been a lot better in Sean Payton's offense. So I think he'll be better today against the Chiefs. It is a really tough matchup. You talk about how scared about the Cowboys defense, scared about the Niners defense. Chiefs defense is just as good as those defenses at the moment. So we'll see about Russ. Hopefully he can put it together against a great defense, but I think it might be a tough day for him again.
I would agree with that. By the way, I have Dak at 11, so I'm with you, Lawrence. I think it's a good game, good day for Dak Prescott.
Let's move on to the running back rankings, starting with the guy who, people are a little concerned about, Matthew, until he got his opportunity with the injury to David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs has seized it.
Yeah, look, I think it's a big night for the Lions as a whole. Shout out to my guy Kenny, who's going to be watching his Lions at home as well. Jahmyr Gibbs is my top 5 running back this week as well. 83% of the running back touches last week to go along with a 20% target share. What happened last week? No Dave Montgomery. What's happening this week? No David Montgomery. So it should be a ton of Jahmyr Gibbs against a Raiders defense that allows the 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs, and they allow 135 yards from scrimmage to opposing running backs. Yes, you'll see some Craig Reynolds in there, Blake Friedman, but it's mostly going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, Penn State Blake.
Who's Blake Friedman? Yeah,
it's Penn State Blake.
I only know him as Penn State Blake.
He's Penn State Blake as well. But
rousing win yesterday against Indiana.
Yes, exactly. Rousing win after losing to Ohio State the week before. But anyway, Kenny, who's one of the guys who works on our show, big, lifelong Detroit Lions fan.
Yes,
so it's going to be a good night for him on Monday night.
Jay, will it be a good day for Isaiah Pacheco in the snow?
I think so, particularly going up against the Denver rushing defense, the same defense which gave up 50 touchdowns to Raheem Mostert and Devin Achane once upon a time. I think the good thing about Pacheco is that last week couldn't get anything done on the ground against the Chargers, 13 for 32, really good Chargers rush defense, but still gave you value with the receiving touchdown, with the 4 receptions. He's shown now that he is resilient to even games where it's not going his way, and that's why he's a locked-in RB1.
Lawrence, you're on the Cowboys beat today. Tony Pollard.
What's interesting is we all felt like he'd be a top 5 running back coming into the season. He still can be that. Right now, he's 11th on a points per game basis. What I've noticed that versus better defenses, he hasn't been as good versus New England and San Francisco. Single-digit points. He was good against the Chargers. Now he gets the Rams. They're middling, but with him continuing to get 20 touches per game, he's averaging 3.9 yards per carry. So we don't love that, but the 20 carries a game, that's what's going to keep him afloat here against the Rams.
Moving on beyond the top 10, Matthew, is this a typo? Why is Breece Hall number 11? I thought we were all on Breece Hall.
We are on Breece Hall, but there's 10 guys that are projected
okay,
higher.
it's like math?
Yeah, it's
so there'll be no math.
A little bit of math, and just where the projections spit him out there. But yeah, he easily could bypass this number. I'm as a borderline RB1 this week. Look, we talked about this earlier in the show. Massive workload the past 2 games, 68% of the snaps the last time we saw him play, 42 touches over his last 2 games. Running backs that have gotten at least 15 touches against the Giants, averaging 18.9 fantasy points per game. So again, when you get a lot of touches against the Giants, you have a good game. Breece Hall, we expect to get a lot of touches. Give me Breece Hall as a top 12 play today against the G-Men.
Before we get to you, Lawrence, who is your favorite between Aaron Jones or T. Higgins? This is standard, and this is from Scott.
I thought I didn't look at the question yet because we see it on the screen. You can't see us, but we have a screen behind the camera. So I was like, who is your favorite? I was like, wow, is it going to be between Jay, Award, and Michael? I got to choose this one. Thank you for not asking that.
Please, someone ask that question now.
That would have been awkward for me. I'm going to go.
I got seniority.
I'm going with T. Higgins.
As in history.
Yes, this is true.
That's what I mean.
I'm glad you went T. Higgins over Michael Smith.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm going with no PPR.
That's the key, I think.
I'm still going with. I don't.
You like Jones in there?
LaFleur.
I don't like either.
I know. I feel good about, let me put it this way. I feel better about T. Higgins' workload than I do Aaron Jones. Just to sort of work this through. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if I get this one wrong, right? I mean, it's a tough one. I get it. But Higgins has at least been targeted a lot. Again, off the bye, fully healthy. Matt LaFleur came out earlier this week and said, like, Jones, even though Jones is on the injury report, he's like, he's clearly not 100%. We're going to be smart with him.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to be smart with him. And so, look, Minnesota's a top 10 run defense over the last 4 weeks. They're 9th in terms of fewest rushing yards allowed. They're using A.J. Dillon more than I wish they would. So I'm going with Higgins.
I like T. Higgins more to get a touchdown, too. Even if he has one of those 2 for 21 games, one of them could be a TD.
Dustin is in a half-point PPR and has a flex decision. Amari Cooper or Joe Mixon. P.J. Walker is killing him, and it feels like Joe Mixon is due. Applebee's was epic, by the way. Loved it. Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you, Dustin, as well. I get that. I do feel like Mixon is due. I mean, he made my hate list this week, but he's 18th. Don't love him against the Niners. P.J. Walker has not been good. Half-point PPR. I don't know, leaning Amari Cooper because it's not a full PPR here. I mean,
I worry about
he's going to see whether
he's
going to be the games in
if
Seattle.
If P.J. Walker throw it up, Amari Cooper could get it.
I'm a fan of P.J. Walker. He does toss it up.
I made the mistake of underestimating Amari Cooper against San Francisco.
If P.J. Walker throw 3 picks, that don't mean nothing for Amari Cooper. So.
You know what? But I'm changing my mind. I'm going to say Joe Mixon. I'm going to say why.
Touchdown.
Yeah. Who's got the better shot at getting into the end zone? And it's Joe Mixon. He's got the better chance at volume. He's got the better. I think Amari Cooper's a better football player. And normally I go with just the better football player. But in this particular case, because bad matchup for Amari, not a rookie quarterback, but inexperienced quarterback on the road at Seattle, he's going to see a lot of Witherspoon.
There we go.
Yeah.
The moment of truth.
Look, hey, seniority.
Yeah.
He's always on the show with you.
That's
But
right.
remember in Vegas.
You were my guy in Vegas.
We was ready to.
I need more like who's your favorite guy to go to Vegas with? Who's your favorite guy to place bets with? Who's your favorite guy to? Although Jay and I had an epic. Well, we have one night in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Y'all night in Buffalo definitely different.
Yeah.
Although I
magic.
will give a shout out to Lawrence because only one of us has literally made you get up from the chair
That is
and
true.
walk away from the set.
I think we've all done that at various
Yeah,
points.
various points.
I haven't gotten to do that yet. Don't worry about it, man. Listen, because we have the history, I can take it.
All you gotta do is tell them, like
take
you
it.
do sometimes. You be like, you can't mess this one up.
This is
You
true.
Right.
just go
Can't
like,
go
you can't
wrong.
mess this one up.
I
Great job,
can't mess this one up. I'm gonna, much as I love everyone on the table, I do have to say Michael.
I'm out.
It's fine. Sorry.
You just
Lawrence.
lost your Australian audience, which is a massive
My
part of the
client,
show.
we
I believe
work
it's
together at
60% of the audience.
ESPN. We work together at ESPN. I've known him the longest.
It's even worse
I've
that you're
literally-
justifying it.
Yeah. No.
He giving us analysis on this.
You've ruined movies for me.
We see each other every day.
I'm about to say I'm coming once a week.
Yeah.
I'm once a week, and I'm still
6 days a week.
still his number one
6
pick.
days a week isn't what it used to count for. Buffalo, not what it used to count for.
But you're second. Like,
Oh, Lawrence! Oh my God!
I'm ranking.
Oh,
I'm
Hey, Stevie, cut my mic off.
You know how
You're like Deion Sanders. You're ranking your children.
I'm ranking how exactly. And by the way, you're number 2 with a bullet. Like you could easily overtake Jay. We should do this every week where I
Right.
rank it because
Honestly, quarterback, running back, tight end.
Pretty
I'm
much.
getting
Coach
paid
rankings.
like the running back right now.
Yeah.
I'm like the running back
Just
right
let
here.
you know. I'm just honestly.
You're
just-
onto
I
something there.
I'm just like
Thank you.
Saquon.
I
You
like-
gonna run me to death.
That's exactly right.
Pay Daniel Jones.
I like how Coach Prime, ranks his kids.
was honest about it,
Keeps his kids. I'm going to rank him every week. That's what I'm going to do, Dad.
I think
Don't worry
after
about it.
every
At the
show,
moment,
you should do a press conference
I
and rank
should.
our performance.
Yeah, I'm
after
going to do
every
that.
show. Yeah.
1,000%.
Back to the rankings, the actual
Okay,
running back
yeah.
rankings. So, Lawrence, I really need help here because I wanted to ask you about Jonathan Taylor, but with Zach Moss active, it's like we've been thinking Jonathan Taylor was going to take this backfield over again, but Zach Moss isn't going anywhere. But again, banged up. How do you see this playing out
Jonathan
today?
Taylor was running back 7 last week, playing 50% of the snaps. If he gives me that, I'm good. Zach Moss could still a touchdown here, but 21 touches for Taylor last week, 120 yards and a touchdown. He's got 2 straight games with 45 receiving yards. New Orleans, second best against running backs in fantasy. ETN struggled with him a little bit, but still got the 2 touchdowns.
That's right.
Previous backs they face are Damian Pierce, Stevenson, Rashad White, Dillon, and Miles Sanders, but Jonathan Taylor is none of those. And he's not even ETN. He's better than him too. So I like Barry's running back 14 this week a lot.
Jay, you pointed out Josh Jacobs' lack of efficiency this year. Does that change today? Or Monday, I should say, against Detroit's run defense?
I don't think it does. So Josh Jacobs has 1 carry all season for 20-plus yards. Here are some guys who have more than him. Rondale Moore, he's a wide receiver. Russell Wilson, he's a quarterback. Chris Brooks, who's a 5th stringer. They all have more explosive carries than Josh Jacobs.
Wow.
So I'm a bit concerned about Jacobs, but it'll trend right at some point.
All right, going a little bit deeper on the running back rankings, and actually this is timely. Got a friend of mine, Mr. Bun B, asked me whether or not he should go with Madison or Gus Edwards, because he's worried about, hey, Gus Edwards, 80-yard touchdowns or 80-yard receptions, it could be a fluke, but Madison has acres breathing down his neck.
I have
So
Gus
help Bun B out.
Okay, sure. I have Gus
You know who Bun B
Edwards.
is?
But I'm about to say, who you talking about? You know him?
Yeah, that's my guy.
He play fantasy?
Does he?
That what's up,
Bun
man.
B is hardcore.
Okay.
He's a hardcore fantasy player.
Wow.
Probably
All right.
watching right now. What up, Bun?
All right. Hey, Bun. Listen.
He doesn't watch anymore. That was it.
Sometimes you just got to go for it. All right. I have Gus Edwards literally 1 spot ahead of Madison. I have Gus at 22. I have Madison at 23. So I'm going to say Gus Edwards here. The workload's been there. 3 of the last 4 games, he's gotten at least 15 touches. Baltimore, of course, is an 8.5-point favorite in this one. It's actually moved to 9.5 now as of this morning. In a game which we see some decent scoring, over/under is 45. And so Gus Edwards going against a Cardinals defense that gives up the 5th most rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. Get on the Gus bus.
All right, Gus bus it is. Jay, you are contractually obligated to address Najee Harris.
I do love Najee Harris. He's quietly averaging over 15 carries a game the past 4 games. So rumors of Jalen Warren taking over the backfield, it's still Najee's backfield.
All right. That was very efficient right
Well,
there.
I was told to be efficient.
Yeah.
Lawrence.
Steven said go quickly, so we
Okay,
got to go
Lawrence.
quickly here.
Kareem Hunt with Jerome Ford.
Yeah.
Iffy for
This
Seattle,
one's
yeah.
just, hey, if Jerome Ford doesn't play, you like him more than you did than if Jerome Ford still played. But keep in mind that Kareem Hunt was still running back 14 last week with Jerome Ford in there, and the Seahawks give up 5 reception a game against running backs, and that's what Kareem Hunt does.
All right, let's move to, before we go to wide receivers, Jeremy wants to
Novel
know,
here.
okay, would you do this trade? Oh, now you're speaking my language. It would happen before games today. Gives Ford and London for Foreman and Devontae Smith. Keep in mind, Jeremy's other running backs are Etienne, Hall, Rashawn Johnson, Tyjae Spears, and Royce Freeman. At wide receiver, he has Godwin, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb. You're welcome for the help, and we love you too.
Yeah, I don't think I want to do that trade. I mean, I think Foreman's a
Ford and
nothing.
London.
So it's really Ford and London for Devontae
Damn,
Smith.
a nothing?
Sorry, Deontay. I know Deontay watches the show as well.
All right, so
mean,
you're not worried
just
about you're not worried about Foreman. It's about Devontae Smith for Ford and London is how you see it. Is
Yeah.
what you see. And do you
I
think
don't mind-
Devontae Smith kind of comes on eventually? 'Cause
Yeah, I
even
do.
this
Like,
orange
I don't
took
mind.
off.
I don't mind doing that. I just, I think you're in essence you're buying low on Smith, but you're selling high.
He's deep enough at running back to trade away Ford in
Ford,
order to
correct.
upgrade from London to Smith. In theory, he's upgrading from London to
And
Smith.
I don't
Right,
know
and
if
he's
that's the upgrade.
Right,
he'll get Foreman, so he has the Chicago running backs because he also have Roshan
Yeah.
as well. The weird part is I don't know that Devontae Smith starts for him. I mean, it'd be him or Godwin. You know what I mean? And and so given the fragility of running backs, we expect Drake London to be better as well. I don't know.
And London's been solid.
And I don't know if I want to take on Foreman. Roshan Johnson
Then you're
coming
in my,
back.
then you're in my boat.
Now you're all
Then you
in
don't know
on the
which one to
Chicago
start.
Bears.
Yeah,
that's
Khalil
correct.
Herbert will come back at some point.
Yeah.
I'll
Maybe
say this.
stand pat.
I'd probably do the trade just for this reason. Devontae Smith's the best player in that trade, in
Yeah.
theory.
In theory, yeah.
And so I always like getting the best player in a trade. And so
But Jeremy, sometimes the best trades are the ones you don't make.
Yeah,
Also, there's a case for standing
I'm probably
pat.
doing it, but I don't think it's a must trade for you. Is what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like it's like
it's not a smash accept. As they
yeah,
say.
you have a good team there. I might just stay put, but don't mind. But I'm probably leaning more towards doing it.
Thanks for taking the time not only to tweet the hashtag after
giving
the
us all
pregame, but the context,
yeah.
man. That's a lot of thumb exercise right there. Appreciate you. All right, wide receiver rankings. Ready,
Yeah, let's
Steven?
do it.
The wide receivers, let's do it. Starting with Keenan Allen, cracking the top 5, Matthew.
He's Keenan Allen. You're starting him. Look, they're bottom 5. The Bears are in terms of touchdowns allowed to wide receivers. Allen's had at least one end zone target for the past 5. We've talked about he's gotten a little unlucky. He should improve on that. He's got a 30% target share. Josh Palmer's banged up. You're starting Keenan Allen.
All right, Lawrence, Devontae Adams.
Yeah, he's been wide receiver 40 the past 3 weeks to Jacoby Myers, wide receiver 8. You don't love that, but they're 7.5-point dogs here to the Lions. You get Jimmy G back, and with Jimmy G, Devontae Adams is getting 6 catches, 79 yards. In Detroit, they're middle of the pack when it comes to defending receivers in fantasy.
All right, and Jay, break down the prospects for the Rams wide receiver 2. Cooper Kupp.
Wow.
I kid.
Unbelievable. Cooper Kupp is set at 82.5 receiving yards on DraftKings. I think that's too low. He was consistently 20 yards higher than that in 2021. I get Puka Nacua, and I know he cuts into Kupp's work. I still think Kupp is wide receiver 1 in that offense.
just joking.
And the Dallas secondary is a little vulnerable.
All right, numbers 11 through 20. Let's throw those up. Matthew, we talked about a commander all show, I don't think. Terry McLaurin versus the Eagles.
I weakly defended Sam Howell against Desmond Ridder,
that's
but
right.
that was about it. Look, here's the thing about Terry McLaurin. He has traditionally been very good against the Eagles. Last 3 games, dating back to last season against Philly, he has at least 85 receiving yards in each of those games, averaging 19.9 fantasy points per game against the Philadelphia Eagles. 3 of the past 4, at least a 25% target share, at least 80 receiving yards. We expect them to be down. We expect them to be throwing. Now, the Eagles' secondary has gotten a lot healthier. They've gotten some, but the truth of the matter is that McLaurin is kind of matchup proof. Like, Slay hasn't been able to keep up with his career. Eagles have given up at least 17 fantasy points to one wide receiver in every game this year. And so if you're telling me, hey, one wide receiver against the Eagles gets 17 fantasy points, you figure it's Terry McLaurin, especially with Curtis Samuel active. I don't think him and Jahan Dotson sort of eat into each other.
All right, Jay, what you think about Garrett Wilson today?
I think he'll have a big game. His receiving yards is set at 59.5. It's just too low. It's Garrett Wilson. The past 3 weeks, he's had targets of 12, 7, 14, and then 9 and 8 before that. I just think through sheer volume, Garrett Wilson coming off the bye, he's too talented to ever be set below 60 receiving yards.
All right, and Lawrence, Zay Flowers. Matthew's got a breakout game coming from today.
I do as well. We finna call this day Zay Day right here. The Cardinals have given up multiple receiving touchdowns to receivers in 3 of their last 4 games. They're the 6th worst against receivers in fantasy, and we've been kind of waiting for this game for Zay Flowers. I think it happens today.
Speaking of breakout, Matthew, question. Another Matthew wants to know, has Sun God for sure starting, but needs 2 other starters between Nico Collins, who we were about to get to, Nico Collins, Zay Flowers, DJ Moore, Amari Cooper, and Jordan Addison. This is for a 12-team full PPR league.
That's a hell of a, I mean.
That's a good room. It's a good
right,
wide receiver room. Yeah.
I'm just saying. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really good. Okay, you're obviously starting Amon Ra, St. Brown. I think it's DJ Moore. I mean, so DJ Moore I have at 11. And then it's Jordan Addison for me, who I have at 18. Again, like we love Zay Flowers. I have Zay Flowers at 20. I have Nico Collins at 26. I think he has a nice game here as well. So this is one of those where, again, I don't think you can screw it up.
Can I ask you about DJ Moore specifically?
Yeah.
Now, I'm the president now, thanks to my recent
Tyson
conversation
Bagent,
with him. I'm
which we'll
president
see on
of
Football
Tyson
Night in
Bagent
America. Yeah.
Fan club. But you still like DJ Moore, huh?
Massive target share, over 30% target share in the games that he's played with Tyson Bagent. I think they move him around enough. I'm not really worried about it. I mean, the Chargers defense, by the way, over the last 4 weeks, no team in the NFL has given up more passing yards per game than the Chargers. So LA is a 9.5-point favorite. The expectation here is that Chicago's throwing. They're throwing a lot. And when you're an inexperienced quarterback the way Tyson Bagent is, what are you doing? You're looking for who's
your
my best
player.
guy.
Yeah.
And that's DJ Moore, and it's not close. Again,
I think he throws it downfield more this week, too.
Yeah,
than he
probably.
saw.
I mean, listen, you're the man to talk to him. But, yeah, I just think DJ Moore and Jordan Addison would be my choices right there. We talked about Amari Cooper. We're not crazy about that matchup. I like Nico Collins quite a bit today as
like Zay
well.
Flowers.
And I like Zay Flowers. So, again, I don't think you can screw this up. But if you're asking me, I'm going DJ Moore and Jordan Addison.
Let's go a little bit deeper on Nico Collins, though. Speaking
Yes, sir.
of breakouts, he's been everything we thought he could be in the preseason and perhaps more.
He's been terrific. He's my wide receiver 26, so I'm as a flex play. I do have him ranked lower than Jordan Addison, who's inside my top 20. But Nico comes in at 26 for me because he's had at least 80 receiving yards in 4 out of 6 games this year. It's a nice matchup with Carolina, who've allowed a touchdown to a wide receiver in 4 straight games. I do think C.J. Stroud has a very nice game for the Texans and for Michael Smith in his matchup against me.
All right, thank you very much. Lawrence, Calvin Ridley, mystery wrapped in an enigma inside a riddle.
Yeah, I see Matthew has him at 28, and that's valid. As the season goes, you have to put players what they're actually doing. He's only got 2 games over 40 receiving yards, but for me, he's wide receiver 33 this week. The crazy thing is that he could end up being wide receiver number 3 this week. Jay mentioned earlier Christian Kirk's low over-under on receiving yards. Maybe that means Calvin Ridley gets back to business. He does have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are second worst against fantasy receivers. So, just, I don't know, be on the lookout. But we looking hard because we can't see it.
And Jay, you got more on Amari Cooper?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about Amari Cooper. So since Deshaun Watson went down, Cooper has been targeted 22 times by non-Deshaun quarterbacks on Cleveland, and of those 22 targets, he's caught 7 passes. That's not a good conversion rate. So I think that is one to stay away from if you can.
Hey, Kelly, Lawrence is his favorite. There
we go. Appreciate you, dog. I don't need nobody here. I need you, Kelly.
All right, Lawrence, we'll answer his question. T. Higgins or Rasheed Rice?
This is a pity tweet.
His
T.
opponent
Higgins,
has
I take it how I can get it, Barry.
This is a pity tweet.
Guess what?
Yeah.
Rasheed Rice, dog. Rasheed Rice. We going Rasheed Rice today over T. Higgins. Yes,
Even
sir.
though the opponent having Burrow doesn't mean anything to you. Just like curiosity.
What's that?
Kelly says opponent has Burrow.
No. That doesn't. Your guys are gonna get what they're gonna get.
I agree with
We've been talking about Rasheed Rice this whole show. He's been doing nothing but ascending each and every week. Let's see what T. Higgins does, and then you could, begin to insert him in your lineup again. Good luck, Kelly.
All right, moving on to the.
I disagree with this, by the way, for the record. I have Higgins higher than Rasheed Rice.
But you were just gonna let him cook, though.
Well, listen,
Kelly's
favorite is Lawrence. So
yeah.
if I was Kelly, I would say go with what Lawrence said.
Yeah.
Lawrence is your favorite.
Yeah.
I'm just telling for the rest of the people watching.
Right.
Kelly, you
where
good?
I'm their favorite.
People at home keeping score.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I do think Rasheed Rice has a really nice game today.
Yeah,
but,
15 plus fantasy
But I'm
points,
giving.
so
I think they do the
I like
same
Higgins.
thing.
They might.
Yeah.
They might. Lawrence, when you say your logo here,
Yeah.
what happened to the Player X gig? Did that go away?
We still with that.
Okay.
Player X is, we strong in the game. However, even though business is booming, we always open for business. So as long as you're not talking about fantasy or sports betting, we open for business.
So I couldn't. What would it cost me if I want to get a Fantasy Life logo there?
Well, I used to be part of Fantasy
this is
Life,
true.
so real low. You know what I'm saying?
What
Real
if
low.
Michael Smith wanted to put the Dynasty Exchange over there?
Even lower. He got me on brother from another. It's all good. I'll hook y'all up.
All right, let's
look,
go.
So 1, 2, 3, and Bun B.
Yeah.
You know
All
what
right.
I'm saying? So
What if Jay Croucher
Fully
just wanted a picture of his daughters on there?
that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. We don't
pay a
promote the
real
kids.
premium.
That's tough, right?
The business of my daughters.
Exactly.
We love Josh Downs like an adopted son around
Maybe it was
here.
just Jay's Instagram. Maybe it's just your Instagram handle where your kids are prominently featured. Yeah.
You ready to talk about how Josh Downs is going to go off against your team
He's
today?
going to go off against me. If I beat you, it will not be because Josh Downs had a bad game. Since week 3, he's the 17th best wide receiver in fantasy football, Michael. You know this all too well. And it's a great matchup with the Saints, right? I mean, so there's a real connection between Minshew and Downs. And again, when you think about the Saints, Lattimore always takes off. He'll take Michael Pittman out of the game. And so the slot is always where you attack New Orleans. They allow the 4th most yards to the slot. It's a pretty good run defense in New Orleans as well. So I think the way they move the ball here is through the air and through Josh Downs, who comes in at wide receiver 31. But again, I think he has a big game. I think he has a big game for you. I think he has a big game against me. and it will be annoying. Sometimes, I mean, I would love to be wrong, but I'm never wrong. So, never
course.
happened.
Yeah.
So he's definitely going off today.
You're never wrong. You're essentially right, or
Right.
eventually right.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Either one. So this is wrong. What's this? Do we have to do this? We really have to do this every week? We have to have you talk about Michael Thomas every week?
Well, his friends call him MT. Like I call
Can't
him
guard
MT.
Mike.
Yeah, can't guard Mike. No, let's talk about Michael Thomas again. Look,
Every
if
week.
you need,
Like, why are we,
Hey,
like,
listen,
I'm dead
Michael,
serious. Like, why is this a thing every single Sunday?
You're so lucky that you have the same first name as Michael Thomas, because
You know
he's
my
a
brother name
fantastic-
is?
What, is it
Thomas.
Michael? Yeah, there you go.
No, it's not
Unbelievable.
Michael.
Yeah.
Why would we both be named Michael?
It's strange. I don't know. Some people are strange.
Leonard Fournette's brother basically has the same name as him. It just spelled different. Fun
that's
fact.
Didn't know that.
That's very
There is,
George
it is,
Foreman
it
type.
is,
Maybe
it
that's
is
why he's not
Dalvin
the
James Cook and James Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
You
That
know,
too, see?
those two guys.
All right.
That's right.
Michael Thomas.
What can I say about Michael
he can
Thomas?
That you
Thomas
haven't
Michael.
said about in the last
Right.
7 weeks.
No, listen.
Is
If
your
you,
middle name Thomas? Because that would be cool.
No.
If you were Michael Thomas Smith and
No.
your brother was Thomas Michael Smith,
No.
that would also be cool.
Anthony is my middle name.
All right,
For the
fair
record,
there
in case
you
you're
go.
wondering.
Listen, if you need 5 receptions for 55 yards and no touchdowns, Michael Thomas is your guy, because no one does that better. 6 targets in every single game. No, to be honest, look, he got in the end zone last week, which is fantastic. It was
Yeah.
the first time all season, but I think Rashid Shaheed is coming. Rashid Shaheed played 63 snaps last week against the Jags. He also might be better than Michael Thomas. So I think Rashid Shaheed will have a big day today, but Michael Thomas will get his
Especially because
He
Michael
balled
Thomas
every week.
He showed up on the
and
injury
he's
report.
sick.
He might be
Exactly.
less than
Rest up,
100%.
Michael, and we'll talk about you next week.
I was about to
again.
say, like, this is not 2019. Like, are we doing this again next week too?
Yeah,
I need
we
to, like,
will.
prepare
Yeah.
myself.
I get to choose every week.
Jay
who I get to talk
stupidly
about.
in the preseason, like tried to argue for Michael Thomas.
Then the problem is, like,
And
they
then-
kind of
source
walked
of
it
this?
back
and then
a
he
little.
walked it back,
Okay,
and then he walked
all
it
right.
back,
See,
and
I
we
didn't
wouldn't
know
let
the
him, and
source of
we
this.
sort of planted the flag on
Okay.
Jay.
So
and
basically,
we-
this is Steven trolling him.
pretty much.
Okay.
All of us trolling him.
All right, this makes. Hey, isn't Josh Palmer a game time, Lawrence?
He is.
Yeah, so definitely have a backup plan for that. But wide receiver 10 last week, and he didn't even catch a touchdown. Only needed 5 receptions to do that. He's wide receiver 26 over his last 4 games. Me and Matthew both may have him ranked too low this week going against this banged up Bears secondary.
He'd be higher if you knew for sure he was 100%.
That's why we
playing.
have him in the mid
But
30s.
it's trending towards him playing, but he is a game time decision,
Yeah.
so we'll see. So
right.
that's the only concern is, if they get it big, do they rest him in the second half?
Let's keep the tight ends tight. One note on one guy for each of you quickly on George Kittle, Matthew.
Look, you're starting Kittle. Bengals allow the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends. He's George Kittle.
Lawrence, Darren Waller, who's active.
Darren Waller, tight end 2 since Tyrod Taylor's been starting. Tyrod Taylor's starting today. Fire him up.
And Jay Dallas Goddard against Matthew's Commanders.
Yep, back to being an elite fantasy tight end. Dallas got it. He's been the number 2 guy in that offense after A.J. Brown in the passing game.
I need Dalton Schultz to score again against Matthew's team. We're going to break. We'll be right back. Hit us with more of those questions to the hashtag FF pregame. And as wrong as it is for a team in Nashville to be wearing Houston on us throwbacks, I'll be damned if the things ain't sick.
Let me take that Titans money line.
Woo!
Those are
Boy,
fire.
you remind me of that Warren Moon jersey I used to have.
Those are fire.
Man.
Ooh.
Get your weekdays started with Bet the Edge. Join Jay and Drew as they tackle the biggest games from every angle in the NFL, NBA, and more. So whether you're targeting spreads and totals, looking for value in futures markets, or circling player props, Jay and Drew have you covered with new episodes every weekday at 6 a.m. Eastern. That's a glamorous picture of you. I think you should read your own promos from now on.
Yeah, I'll read it next time.
Would that feel weird?
No,
read
it
your
was
own
fine.
promos.
Not sure about the photo. It
Self-promoting?
looked like a K-pop star.
No,
I guess maybe that's a good
I
thing.
thought that was very handsome photo. Very handsome photo.
Lawrence liked my gag. Matthew's texting
It was
someone.
okay. I'm making bets.
Making bets in accordance with
bets.
your advice.
I'm making bets. That's what I'm doing.
Time for beer goggles. You just saw the animation there. As usual, if you're new to this hip party, maybe you just joined us last week from Applebee's. You heard about all the fun we had. Like, I got to get in on this show because word around the campfire, literally, because that's our animation early in the show, word around the campfire is this is the best fantasy show in the game, hands down. Nobody has more fun. Nobody answers more questions. So this part of the show, on a scale of 1 to 5 beers, how loaded, how lit do you have to be to start the following players?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because when you have alcohol, you make decisions differently.
Let's have to
sometimes.
make some bad decisions.
Let's make some bad decisions.
Yeah.
Exactly. By the way, one quick thing. We didn't get to it on the.
What's that?
I just want to mention Trey McBride's going to get his start today.
Oh,
I
yeah.
do think he's dirt cheap on DraftKings if you're playing DFS. I like Trey McBride.
Yep.
This is, again, we saw
glad
Dalton
you came
Kincaid come out on
back to that.
Thursday, but
Yeah.
just like that's a sneaky waiver wire ad. Even if you don't play him today against the Ravens, I do think Trey McBride's going to be a thing, especially with Kyler Murray coming back.
All right, scale of 1 to 5 beers, Matthew. How many beers do you need to feel good about starting Calvin Ridley?
I need 2 beers, so a little buzzed, starting to feel it a little bit as well. Look, here's the positive. Steelers allow the third most fantasy points games to wide receivers. Ridley's gotten at least 7 targets in 5 of 7 games, but back-to-back weeks with single-digit fantasy points. He's had 40 or fewer wide. So, again, he's my wide receiver 28, so he's a wide receiver 3. I'd want about 2 beers.
Jay, your man Deontay Johnson?
Just 1 beer for Deontay Johnson. Don't love the matchup against a strong Jags secondary, but I still think he is wide receiver 1 on the Steelers ahead of George Pickens.
Lawrence Najee Harris.
It's always going to be 3 beers for me to start Najee Harris. He's still getting, double-digit carries. He's had that in every game except week 1. He scored his first touchdown last week, so here we go.
Eagles at Commanders, Matthew Brian Robinson.
I'd want 3 beers and maybe a shot. He is so touchdown dependent. 8 touches last week, which is season low. You mentioned Chris Rodriguez, him and Antonio Gibson both cutting into his workload. 4 straight games with under 60 total yards for Robinson. Eagles allow the lowest amount of rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. If he gets in the end zone, he might pay off for you, but I'd want 3 beers. He's my running back 30 this week.
Jay Devontae Smith.
1 beer for Devontae Smith. No, the production hasn't been there, but Commanders secondary, and it's still Devontae Smith. He won the Heisman. It's still Devontae Smith.
Lawrence Jahan Dotson.
Matthew, I'm with you on Terry McLaurin, but I would need 5 beers and $5 readers to start Jahan Dotson. He averages 26 receiving yards a game. His season high, which he just got last week, was 43 yards, and it took him 8 targets to do that.
Yeah.
5 beers.
But he did score against Philly.
Yes.
Minnesota at Green Bay, Matthew KJ Osborne.
Single-digit fantasy points in 4 straight games. I want 4 beers. I want to be completely hammered. I've got to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm starting him. Like, that's how sloppy I need to be because he's at under 40 receiving yards in 3 straight games. He does not have 1 game with over 50 yards this season, and he's had a below a 15% target share in 5 of 7 games. I get it because there's no Justin Jefferson there, but he's just my wide receiver 44 this week. I think it's going to be Hawkinson and Addison in a game in which the Vikings should be up and not having to throw that much. 4 beers.
Jay Alexander Madison.
2 beers for Alexander Madison. He's still starting running back on a team that is favored today, but I am worried that Cam Akers is going to become the guy at some point.
And Lawrence Christian Watson, whom I traded and now I'm facing this week.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna need 3 beers here. No numbers. I don't need no numbers for this. I just don't know the Packers' offensive identity, and we're midway through the season. Once today, if they get all their players in shape and healthy, let's see what they do. But for now, I need 3 of them things.
Cleveland at Seattle, Matthew Kareem Hunt.
3 beers on Kareem Hunt. Showed up on the injury report this week. We don't know if Jerome Ford's going to play as well. It's a tough matchup against the Seahawks, who since week 4 have allowed the 2nd fewest fantasy points to running backs. and a league low 2.9 yards per carry.
Jay, you mentioned you being worried about Amari Cooper. How many beers you need to not be as worried?
I am worried about it, but it's still one beer. It's still Amari Cooper. He's still the number one guy in that offense. He's going to get his targets. I think he'll get you 50 yards with a chance at a touchdown.
Lawrence Tyler Lockett.
I respect Tyler Lockett, but they're going against Cleveland. Jackson Smith and Jigba is coming along. Lockett this year has one game over 60 yards, so because it's Tyler Algier, I'm not going to be disrespectful and say 4 or 5, but we're going to go with 3 beers for this matchup.
All right, you guys got your beers in you. You're feeling good. Matthews, ready to make some bad decisions with you guys, looking all good and whatnot.
Waiting to be picked up.
Glistening.
Sitting here at the bar.
All right. So.
Hello. Hello. Who's my favorite tonight?
I'm glad you the one that has
so
to choose
good.
because I don't know if I could do that.
This is so good. This is so good.
I chose who was my favorite.
I'm glad
gonna choose
I'm
who
one of
going
the
home with
hunters.
tonight. Yeah, exactly.
All right, pick him up.
All right, so
Spit some games.
You know what? This is what I know, Barry. Look, I have to get into your football emotions here,
Yes, sir.
right? So first off,
Love
we're
language.
gonna start with Sunday Night Football right here on NBC, folks.
I'm a company man.
Right, we talked about Tyson Bagent. Michael Smith talked to him yesterday or the day before, or whatever. So look, check it. We're gonna center this around him, the young rookie. So they're playing the Chargers. The Chargers are tied with several teams for allowing 3 rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks this season. Tyson Bagent already has a rushing touchdown this season. His anytime touchdown prop plus 500.
Okay.
Maybe if Bears get 1 or 2 touchdowns, you get by the goal line, you're at the 6 or the 7 yard line, drop back pass, breaks down. Oh man, I can't find nobody. Runs it in. We've already seen that he could do it. That's where we at.
Okay, well, I'm staying in the same game, Blockbuster, Sunday Night Football. And Matthew, do you know what Raheem Mostert, Tony Pollard, and Isaiah Pacheco all have in common?
What's that?
They didn't get to 40 rushing yards against the Los Angeles Chargers, who have an elite rush defense out of nowhere this season. And so I'm taking Deonta Foreman under 48.5 rushing yards. He played 48% of the snaps when Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert weren't there last week. Roschon back. It might be Roschon's backfield. We don't know. Even if it isn't, he's going to get his work cut into Foreman, and he's not getting to 49 rushing yards.
I'm going with that one. Come on, that's awesome.
You like it that easy?
Dude, I might.
You like it that?
Dude,
What's
I might
the, what's
steal
the odds on that?
I might steal that for my Barry's bet tonight on Football Night in America.
It's good.
It's really good. There's a reason your bet's plus 500.
Yes, we go bigger, we go home.
If you go
baby.
bigger, you go
We go
home. I
bigger, we go
appreciate it.
home.
Listen, so I'm going home with Jay.
But when it happened, don't come calling me.
Don't
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Can you submit the rest of this segment in that voice? What you had earlier?
Come on, Jay. Let's go, baby. Thank you.
Okay.
a guy home.
I should have gone with the worst line.
Exactly. I'm just,
Foreman
Is
under
that like
10
Dolly
yards.
Parton?
I don't
Like,
know
what
what
are
it
you doing
is. It's
there?
like an old timey cartoon voice. I feel like when Bugs Bunny would dress up in a dress. I feel like it was
Freddy
his voice.
Krueger here.
Freddy Krueger in the flesh.
Wow, that's commitment right there.
I don't know who that is.
Definitely like
It feels like everything we've gotten has come from this game. It's like a costume party.
Yeah, they're having
Jets,
fun
Giants.
there. Jets by 1,000,000, by the way. I'm sorry, Lawrence, but keep your phone open. I may ask you to roll through at midnight.
When the night shift starts, the nightmare begins. Five Nights at Freddy's is in theaters and streaming now on Peacock. Guys, what's scarier? Five Nights at Freddy's, my voice just now, or Matthew Berry's Kelsey mustache? Does it come with an extra lip, or is that more actual lip? That's the thing I'm trying to say.
Don't nobody want to pick you up like that.
Yeah. Look, I was in my what's the easiest costume I can come up with era.
Travis Kelce and James.
You and the missus pulled it off, though.
No, so my wife wanted to go as Taylor Swift, and so she was in charge of procuring the mustache, and she didn't do a ton of research.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is an Andy Reid mustache.
Definitely an Andy Reid. Andy Reid would be more likely to wear a Kelce jersey too than Travis Kelce himself.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Magnum PI thing going on there too. I don't know. It was a little. I don't know. We tried to trim it, but it just didn't work out that well. I don't know.
Look, it's tightened up there.
Okay, yeah, exactly. I made a comeback. Don't call it a comeback, but that's what it was. Yeah. Drunk on Dollaritas, I had a good game last week.
Hey, Jahan Dotson or Michael Wilson?
Michael Wilson.
Okay, thank you. Let me make that change real quick. And then we will now go into bar trivia. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow's trivia answers today. All right, who has more passing yards, Dak Prescott or Matthew Stafford? Matthew?
Stafford.
Dak.
Who scored more fantasy points, C.J. Hawkinson or Jordan Addison Lawrence?
Hawkinson.
Addison. Fuck it.
That's what you get on fantasy football pre-game, damn it!
Sorry. This is my natural reaction.
I can't do the rest of the segment. I can't do the rest of the segment.
All right. Who had more rushing
No
yards?
Dollaritas in them.
Yeah, exactly. Who had more? I didn't do shots earlier. All right, more rushing yards. Derrick Henry or Bijan Robinson?
Bijan Robinson.
Derrick Henry.
Bijan Robinson.
Wow.
Who had more total yards? Alvin Kamara or Jonathan Taylor? I'll say Kamara.
Give me Taylor.
All right. Who had more receptions in today's game? Jalen Waddle or Kendrick Bourne?
Give me Waddle.
Kendrick Bourne.
Waddle for me. Who scored more fantasy points? Saquon Barkley or Breece Hall? I'll say Breece Hall.
Give me Breece Hall.
More receptions, Calvin Ridley or George Pickens?
Calvin Ridley.
Pickens.
Who had more receiving yards, Terry McLaurin or Devontae Smith?
Scary Terry. It's Halloween.
Scary Terry.
Devontae Smith.
More fantasy points, Dameon Pierce or Devin Singletary?
Pierce.
Yeah, Pierce, and I don't feel good about it.
More receiving yards, Amari Cooper or DK Metcalf?
DK Metcalf.
Metcalf.
Did Patrick Mahomes, who's battling the flu, have 3 or more total touchdowns against the Broncos?
Yes, sir.
No.
More receiving yards, Mark Andrews or his former teammate Marquise Brown?
Mark Andrews.
Marquise Brown.
Mark Andrews.
Did Joe Mixon score a touchdown against the Niners?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Who scored more fantasy points, Austin Eckler or Keenan Allen?
Eckler.
I'm going to say Eckler.
Who had more total yards, Josh Jacobs or Jahmyr Gibbs?
Gibbs.
Just when I think this show can't get any better, every week there's a new favorite moment.
If I'm not here next week, I love you all. Michael, you're my favorite. For Jay and Lawrence, who are also Rands, good luck in week 8, whatever this is. Peace out.